All right, everything looks good, Joe.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Rodney. So, pretty light for the exec meeting. Welcome, everybody. So, let's go ahead and get started. First item I had was just to make sure that we submit the approved 2020 annual treasurer's report and the annual president's report. If there's anything we need to do to get that in, or if it has been, if we can just get an update on that.
I did send that in to Gene Spratlin. I did not get a confirmation email about it, but I did send it. And it doesn't look like it got stuck on the way over. So I think they have it.
Okay. Awesome. I'll make a note of that. Let's see. It'd be nice if my pen worked.
I put in a little, we understand that it will likely happen in April, but if it could be, it's possible to happen sooner, the CTC would really appreciate it. And I'm not sure if that helped your cause or not.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I think it's good. Because we definitely need that approval in order to get membership.
Yes.
So, perfect. Thank you, Rodney. I don't have any time-sensitive voting items at this time. So, does anybody else have any pressing business voting-wise or other?
I don't think I have anything. Rodney and I are working to find a check that got mislaid for $500, but we can deal with that, and that's certainly not a voting issue.
Okay. Sounds good. Was that the insurance check? Or is that...
No, it's a check for a grant. I don't know if it's the 500 that comes at the end of the Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful. Remember, because they always hold back 500. We know that she mailed it to the address on Lexington, but Rodney hasn't been able to find it, so we don't know if it didn't make it to Rodney and it's sitting somewhere else in the office or what. We'll probably just have them reissue it because we don't want to lose out on $500.
Okay. Yeah, I know Rodney's got a couple of offshore accounts. So we might,
if only, right?
Yeah, now you said that on the record. Now he's going to be in trouble.
That's right. Well, good deal. That sounds good. Only other business I have is I'm planning on sending a reminder email for Friday, 1 p.m. at the behind the Oconee Street racetrack for our Georgia Arbor Day.
How long do you think that'll take, Joe? Will that be like a half an hour program?
I think so.
I got a meeting at 2. I just have to figure out how to fit it in.
Yeah. I think probably 30 minutes at the most. Phil will say something, and then we'll have Russell read or recite the proclamation. He claims he's going to memorize it. So, yeah. That's
There is a press release that will be released either that Friday or the following Monday. It's kind of a combination press release. It's announcing the Arbor Day celebration for this year, but it's also introducing the I-Tree Echo study that's going to be taking place this summer. So it's a combination press release.
cool. Sounds great. Let's see here. Okay, well, perfect. So yeah, sounds like we've got everything hammered in for this kind of, at least the near future. Yeah, let's see. I don't think there's anything else that exec needs to cover on its own. Let's see. I guess I can share with you guys too. Sean had kind of a cool idea, and Mary, maybe you might have alluded to this in your email that you just sent out. Um, I guess one of his longtime clients passed, and they're looking at the website for the obituary, and so there was a neat feature there that said you could donate a tree through, I think it's American Society of Forests, some organization. Click a button, and it was like $40 you plant a tree, $140 you plant a grove, something like that.
Yeah, Grove
This
are
is
pretty
just
small
something.
trees for that price.
Yeah, something he just showed me real brief this morning at the shop.
Uh-huh.
So that may be coming up on the horizon as a discussion item. So, Mary, is that what you had on your?
Yeah, no, I just heard it from Jessie after she heard it also from Sean. So we're gonna see what everybody thought about putting that on the website as information's discussion. Yeah, I don't know how to best promote that, but I do think he was talking about calling funeral homes to, put it on a list of options. I don't know if they have options. Does anybody have any experience with that? I don't know.
I mean, people, when you look at obits, people have all different things that they designate money for, but I don't know if the funeral homes or whatever have anything specific.
I mean, yeah, I don't remember dealing with that when my father-in-law died recently, but I don't know if people ask the funeral homes for suggestions if they can't come up with anything, but I certainly think it's something we could put on our website as being an option in case people are looking for something like that. If the person's a nature lover or appreciates trees.
I think we need to be careful not to say that $40 will get you a tree, though.
No. So we need to think about the wording and if we even need to offer up suggestions or not. I don't know. I think if we put it on the donate page where we list those suggestions, they can sort of ascertain what levels we're hoping, we're offering up. Or just route any interested people to our website, Okay. Another thing while I have you here, Pam, I think I heard you when I was organizing my stuff here that saying that you had to leave in about an hour.
Yeah.
Do we, we still have a few more blank spots in our past projects. I think I just might have received an email from Phil with all the trees that were planted at the Athens Housing Authority sites. So he's got the receipts from Moon's Tree Farm. Okay, now I'm seeing them here on my phone.
Well, I got a bill from Moon's Tree Farm for $1,800 for the trees we planted on the Firefly Trail last month.
Okay,
if he's got other receipts that haven't been paid yet, then he should send them to me.
I think that they've been paid. They are from March of 2019, $4,400.
Yeah, I remember paying that one.
So it's just a way for us to look up and be able to list the species that we planted. I wanted to make sure that I got the right species. So that's great. I have these now from.
I don't know if the invoice always lists exactly what's on them. And then the invoice we had for January listed the original species, the crepe myrtles, instead of the chalk maples.
Okay.
And so
yeah,
I didn't ask them to submit a new invoice. I just paid that one.
Okay. Well, we'll make a note of that. And now I have these. Did we get all the trees for those plantings from Moon's Tree Farm?
Yeah, I think we've worked with them for the last couple of years. Before that, it was a different farm.
One is from the 7th of March and one's from the 8th. The invoice from the 8th has 2 additional swamp white oaks. So we must have added 2 more at the last minute. that?
Yeah, I think we did.
Does that make sense? Okay. So that was all for the planting at Broad Acres. I'm not sure if I have the species list from the Rock Springs planting from the preceding year. That was before I was on the council. And
I can
so,
see, I don't have my stuff here at work with me.
okay,
Tonight.
if you could maybe look that up, we can fill in that Google sheet just to have that complete. Jesse's going to try to get that up on the past projects page today. It doesn't, we can put it on there without it being complete, but I don't have the species that were planted at Rock Springs. And that would have been in 2018, I guess.
Okay.
2018, like, was that an MLK Day planting or an Arbor? No, it wouldn't have been Arbor Day.
I think so. All the rock things that I know of that we've done have been Arbor Day projects.
So that would have been for February of 2018. And then another thing I don't have are the trees that were planted on the Firefly Trail last year. All these trees look like the trees that we planted at Broad Acres. Trident maple, American elm, redbud, Biloxi crepe. I remember planting all those at Broad Acres.
Yeah, I've got an invoice from January of 2020 with the list of all the trees on it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, if I could see that, then we can get it to Tori for her to update our list.
I'll forward it to you right now.
Okay. And you think that's from the Firefly Trail from last Arbor Day? Okay.
The date of the invoice was the 24th of January, so probably.
Okay. Okay. So then we'll just need the Rock Springs 2018. And then I'll see where we stand at that point. And I might have to
I'm not sure that we got that one from Moon Tree Farm.
Do you think Phil might have that one too?
You could ask him.
Okay.
I know when I started as the treasurer, we were using a different farm. And so I don't remember when we made the switch.
Okay.
I think Sean was in charge of those plantings and did the logistics on them. I have to take this call. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. But then you must have paid him though. Yeah. Well, you're saying that might have been before your time as treasurer.
I can look in the checkbook to see who the check was made out to.
Yeah.
I'll do that this afternoon when I get home.
Thanks. Invoices for the
It may have been like the first year that I was the treasurer, so it's probably been several years.
okay. But Rock Springs was 2018. So these, yeah, so we were at Broad.
And I think in 2018 we did the first planting, and then in 2019 we went back and touched some things up.
Okay.
Because there were all the blueberry bushes were down. I feel like Phil brought some extra blueberry bushes from Kofer's or something like that. But I don't know for sure. I'll check.
Okay. It's not, it's nice to have a complete record, but
I don't think you're going to get a complete record.
If we start now, we'll do the best we can. It's not.
Right.
And then we'll just try to start from here on, kind of keeping track of what species we plant and where.
Yeah, well, I think it's also an issue for the trees for tomorrow because we're supposed to keep track of how many trees we planted using that money. Because we obligated ourselves to do a certain number of trees.
Yeah.
I don't think we were keeping very good record of how many trees we actually put in the ground, but we really need to do that. Rodney's been working on that already, so I I think we're improving our records in that respect.
So that was a certain number of trees, not just a certain amount of money.
Well, we got the money and then, but we obligated ourselves to plant what, like 35 trees or something like that. Of course, now the cost of planting trees is a lot more expensive now. And so I don't think the money that we have in Trees for Tomorrow is going to cover all the trees we said we'd plant.
We've been getting some big trees too,
Yeah.
which is better. Really, it's better to,
Well, it's more likely to survive, I think.
yeah, fewer bigger trees would be better than a lot of small ones.
Right. They probably take less maintenance too.
So Rodney, do you feel obligated to fulfill the number of trees?
So where did that number come from?
I kind of remember that too, but I don't know where.
And the Trees for Tomorrow, did we say we're going to plant X number of trees?
No,
I thought it was dollars.
what number did you hear, Mary?
Pam just said she thought it was something like 35, and that just sounded familiar to me. But we're trying to recall.
Because if we said we'd plant a certain number of trees, then I think we're kind of obligated to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that was in the conversations, but there was nothing real formal about that. That was just based on what the market price at the time, approximately how many trees could be planted.
Well, I'll tell you something, we better figure it out because Carl will remember.
Well, Carl's idea was to plant a bunch of saplings
I know, it's just like,
and do reforestation. And so, but it's very clear, the disclaimers are very clear that once the money's donated, it's up to the CTC to make the decisions.
yeah. That's
Right.
the thing.
And a lot of things happen too. So the intention was for a planting at the trailhead.
Yeah.
But with the building of the new mark, and I mean, it's just the available planting space has changed dramatically, and it's been kicked on down the line. So it's not even the same operating environment that it was when the money was initially donated.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as we spend all the money that there is on trees, then that we've done what we can, right? Because
Yes.
That's exactly
I don't
right.
think we should have to raise and spend money to meet that obligation. It's as long as we've used all the Trees for Tomorrow money responsibly.
That's right.
I mean, that's really the only concern. But if that's not written anywhere, yeah, I mean,
I thought it was more the dollar amount that we were shooting to, we were given this money to beautify, and there were a lot of different discussions, wildflower plantings, perennial gardens, things like that, and we're like, we're the tree council, we're not a
We're doing trees, right?
And it just, like Rodney said, with all the new projects that came underway along the trail, it was more reactionary than anything. And I think as long as we use the money as earmarked for tree plantings, then I think we're in the clear. Speaking of Trees for Tomorrow, that's a good segue. We don't have everybody present, but we can start talking about, there are 3 potential grants that were brought up at the last meeting. Farm grant, which would be due in October. There's an REI Rails to Trails grant that was brought up. Less information that I have written down about it. And then probably the most time-sensitive one, UPS grant, that we typically go for every year for $5,000, which is due March 21st. So let's see, who's on our grants committee? We're both present.
Edith sent me a great list of potential grants she had been researching. Thank you, Edith. You did a lot of work. That's so nice. Do you want to share that with the group? I don't know if you know how to share your document on here? Do you know how to do that? I can try, I can pull it up too. Let's see. Okay. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this, y'all. How do you share? So share content. Something's happening.
Yeah, there it is. It's working.
Give it a minute, it's slow.
Hmm.
There it is.
That's the wrong one. You're sharing this screen. Okay, let's try again. I'm sorry. Technical difficulties.
All right.
Ah! Well,
So I see the one on Coca-Cola.
oh, you do?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, good. Okay, so it looks like I'm looking at something else on my other screen. I have two screens up, so. All
Yeah,
right.
we've got Athens CTC grant exploration possibilities 1 Coca-Cola. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
This is all Edith's work. Edith, do you want to talk about it? Or do you want me to read it? Can you hear me? Edith? Okay.
I think Edith is muted.
Okay, I can't see her face well enough to see if she's talking. Can you hear us?
I'm not showing her as muted, so I'm not
Edith?
quite sure.
Maybe her volume is down.
Uh-huh. Edith, can you hear us? This is one of those classic Zoom situations, isn't it? Hello? Okay. Coca-Cola. Let's see, it says here, the formatting has gotten off, but it says need to apply through a regional branch. So that would be our Atlanta branch. They have areas of focus for their grants: water, fitness and health, recycling, and education. And so I sent her our email address. That was one of the things she said she needed. Edith, can you hear us? No. So we could apply for that under a few of those criteria. You know, clean water and education. It could be fitness and health with the Firefly Trail, maybe. Georgia Power, and that is the one that Nina was working on, and I haven't had a chance to catch up with Edith to see if she knows that Nina was applying for that and was going to resubmit it.
Yeah, it looks like she's dropped off, so maybe she had issues.
Yeah. So we knew that Trees Atlanta had received a grant from them, so we feel like we could be a really good candidate for that one.
Yeah.
And that's a water quality. So I would like to see, I never saw what Nina wrote and submitted for that. Did anybody else?
Was she doing it or was Mi Young doing it? I think Mi Young did it the first year.
Oh, really?
I guess she's not on the council anymore. Did she resign?
She
I
did.
think so, yeah.
Okay.
And then I think Nina picked it up
Okay.
and we didn't get it. And so she wanted to resubmit.
Yeah, I think if we keep doing it, we'll get on their radar.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, here, up here, it says foundation board meets May, August, December. So I don't know if they give an award every time they meet. It appears that way. A question for Edith when she comes back.
I think I'm back on. Does anyone?
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Yeah, I had to sign off. I got somehow up a squirrel hole there.
Yeah,
So were we talking about the UPS grant?
right now I'm at Georgia Power.
Okay, yeah.
And did you know that Nina and that we have applied for a Georgia Power grant in the past?
No, I did not know that.
So we need to reach out to Nina. You know, she moved to California for sabbatical, and she's in the ecology department at UGA, and see where we stand on that grant.
Okay.
But I definitely, and then maybe we could see exactly what she wrote, what her write-up was, and just resubmit it or use that as a framework to try to get back on their radar. Is it your impression that they, every time the foundation board meets, they reward? Because it says here they meet in May, August, December.
From
Do
what
they
I
issue?
Yeah, from what I recall, they make a decision within 60 days of their meeting.
So they do that. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, May is coming right up. I will take it upon myself. I'm going to write it down now to email Nina and follow up with her about where we stand on that.
Okay, great. Okay.
She may be willing to help us from afar. I mean, I know she'll be willing to help us from afar.
Yeah.
But she may be willing to resubmit even from afar.
Just so you know, Mary, Nina is on sabbatical right now. I think she does have access to computer, but it's hard to say, you know, how
Right.
soon she'll be able to respond.
Okay. Yeah, Edith, will you carry it on down the line and tell us about what you found?
Yeah, I will do that. And I'm trying to prioritize an order of deadline. One of the ones coming up was also the Synovus. I noticed a lot of these were, not a lot, but some were for reforestation of the longleaf pine. And I
Yeah.
know, not being, being a layperson, I didn't know if we're too far north for that or.
I think probably so. What do you think, Rodney? Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I tuned out for a second. Could you ask that again?
Are we too far north for longleaf pine reforestation?
That depends on who you talk to. Based on our current climate zone, the answer is yes, but that climate zone is shifting and moving. So we may be okay, we may be able to get long needles to grow. So it's marginal right now, but that may change.
Some of those, I think there were 2 or 3 grants that were, looked like, they really focused on that. I was thinking in an ideal world, we could put longleaf pines along the Firefly Trail in opportunity zones. And that would
Maybe if we put it in terms of an experimental program to try it out and see how it responds to the climate changes of the next 40 years or something, that they might be willing at least to give us to try it and see.
Mm-hmm. They're really cool trees. I mean, I would love to try it. I don't know.
We need to identify a location to plant these. I don't know what the volume is, but you would want to make sure there's a place first.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any place along the Firefly Trail or in maybe some of the neighborhoods identified as opportunity zones?
So the Firefly Trail is going to be increasingly challenging for planting spots because basically you'll be limited to only the Firefly Trail right away. The adjacent parcels, if anything, the landowners there are wanting to remove more trees. So there's going to be some challenges moving forward on the Firefly between where we are right now and Winterville. So I wouldn't rely on it.
Could we try to do an experimental grove, like on one of the big parcels, like Southeast Clark Park or something like that?
That would be a conversation almost for Mike Wharton. The county does have some properties around, and he would be more familiar on a larger scale, what might, some areas that might be open for that type of an experimental forest.
Who was that person you said, Mike?
Mike Wharton at Sustainability.
Yeah. The Southern Company was one that really seemed to focus on that. And we've missed for 2021, we've missed the due date, but it would probably be coming up in December that they have a webinar for the applicants, and then the due date proposal is in February. This year it was February 4th. And it seems a lot of these were focused on disadvantaged neighborhoods.
Yeah. That's
So,
good.
and also water quality.
Well, if they've given to the Botanical Garden and the Chattahoochee Nature Center, that's our same zone.
Yeah. And also on REI, they gave to a ski club. It seemed like they give to a broad range of different recipients. The grant I tried to look at the grant application, and it was by invitation only. So I wasn't sure how to get around that other than maybe writing to them.
Yeah. That one looks very, very appropriate for us to apply for.
And we certainly have a lot of REI wearers here in Athens, university being here.
Urban Pathways Steward, planting trees along trails, teaching residents how to care for trees. That's right up our alley.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see, how did you find that one? Did you see if Trees Atlanta received that one too?
I didn't know if it was Trees Atlanta. I went from one link to another,
Yeah.
just down rabbit holes, and that one came up. Also looked at the 5 largest employers in Athens, and let me see, what did I didn't come
Caterpillar
on that except Caterpillar, but that was if the employees donate so much, then they'll match it. So that looks like it might be more just for fun, requesting funds rather than for grants.
Yeah.
Well, being that there's a little bit of a difference there. If we could get on there, if they have a...
Yeah. That's worth an email. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the UPS you have on here, I know we're jumping around.
Yeah.
That has helped us fund, our plantings at the Athens Housing Authority. And we have gotten that, how many years in a row? 2 or 3 years in a row? And then we didn't get it last year.
I think they've been receiving this grant for years and years. We did not get it last year, but that was the first time in a long time. And Stacy, I believe, did encourage us to apply for it again.
Yeah,
So-
I think at the last meeting we decided that Stacy was going to throw something together and slide us in before the 21st of March to try and get this.
I remember that too.
So Edith, I'm going to write myself a note, email Stacy, and let her know that you saw it, and just to confirm that she is going to handle that for us.
Right.
Make sure we don't miss the boat from falling through the cracks. If she's expecting us to do it, or if we're expecting her to do it, I just want to check it off that she's actually going to.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I kind of confused because we also got money from, was it Keep America Beautiful grant? And it was
a combined grant. It's
it's
UPS/.
Thank you. That explains why I'm confusing them. Okay. Which one do you want to talk about? Joe, do we have time?
Yeah, I would say, you know, what is it, 12? What we got? I don't think the interview work group had anything. Y'all do have a slot as well. Well, do you? No. I didn't have much else in this time slot, really. Just, keeping you guys updated on the moon tree. Just waiting on Jeannie. We did have a tabled item from last week about, I doubt this will happen this year, but potentially discussing with Danny Davenport about seedlings of the tree that owns itself being planted at Rock Springs. I'm guessing by the time we get to voting on that, we'll probably have missed the boat. But we can talk about that as well. And then at some point we can get on figuring out the champion and landmark trees work group, kind of hammering out. That one's gonna be a big mountain to climb. So I would say if we want to maybe briefly make some sort of decision on the Danny Davenport seedlings for the trees that own themselves. My thought is we probably, I don't know. What do y'all think?
So yeah, Phil, remind me more about that. How many seedlings do we have? And the idea is that we will plant them at Rock Springs this spring or winter, this winter or spring.
I think Danny was walking around during MLK Day, and it was just something. I don't know how many Phil has. I think he has a few trees just kind of sitting there in pots getting root bound.
There are 26 trees there.
Oh my gosh.
They definitely will need to be potted up. They're in a 3-gallon pot. They'll definitely need to be put in 5 gallons or put in the ground. So they kind of need a home. The Rock Springs, that's where we did our last MLK, right?
Yeah.
So that site has some challenges. And one of the challenges is the trees have a tendency to get broken down. That's why there was wire cages around them. And these seedlings, they're 6 feet tall, but they're only half an inch in caliper. So in that environment without fencing, it might be a real challenge for them, especially since they're going to need a fairly high level of care. The roots will have to be cut, they'll have to be put in the ground and then staked and then watered well to even have a chance to survive. So I'm just not sure if that would work well or not.
Yeah, it sounds like, in my opinion, they ought to just be transferred to larger containers, and we may maybe think about them being prizes for Green Steward Awards, maybe high dollar donation rewards, things like that.
I'm not opposed to growing one out, but I don't know why they would need more than one. I don't know that we need to plant them all in one place. I think it would be cool to plant them in other places.
Definitely.
And just so you know, Seth in an email this morning mentioned bringing some seedlings to the Arbor Day celebration. So I don't know if members will just take those home and plant them or what, but there may be some more seedlings coming our way as well.
General of the tree that owns itself, just leftovers.
Just general from the Georgia Forestry Commission that Seth has.
It's a good problem to have, but I think one of the biggest issues we run into is space to plant. Even the thing like the Memorial Grove issue we always run into is, where can we put these things? So maybe that's a conversation with something like the Athens Land Trust we could get into partnership with. They obviously have huge swaths of land and conservation. That may be something that for a lot of these things, the Memorial Groves, some of these longleaf pine plantings, things like that, may be a good partnership with Athens Land Trust.
Trying to
So,
find new sites. You're talking about.
mhm,
And there's also the Oconee River Land Trust.
mhm.
There are places around the county to plant, but we need a lot of lead time to make something happen. It isn't as simple as just putting them in the ground. We have to have a bunch of meetings and we have to figure out all the logistics and who's going to water and all that stuff. And it takes us 2 or 3 months to do anything in that regard. So we just need a lot of lead time.
So we should start like identifying those sites now for next MLK Day, really, and raising money for it.
Yeah, that might be a good task for Trees for Tomorrow, to just
Yeah.
start working with partnerships with the county, different nonprofits. That's kind of been our hindrance since I've been on the council, is available area. So whenever Trees for Tomorrow meets, if someone wouldn't mind passing that along if I'm not on the call.
As far as right-of-way trees, we can plug in right-of-way trees in a lot of places, but they do need to be 2-inch caliper. That's the thing about those. And we still need a little bit of logistical planning for it.
We could probably use some of the small trees or seedlings if we have a fall event, and if we're able to have something as an in-person event, just to give away as door prizes or, well, to the participants in some way.
We could also think about just having a tree sale online. You know, we could send $5 to come, or $1 to pick one up and $5 to have it sent to you, something like that. You know, just to, we have got a massive surplus of trees right now.
Do
We
we call,
could charge more for the trees that own themselves, you know, $20. That kind of build our budget back up too. We historically did a tree sale as part of our fall event at the farmers market. We don't do that anymore because it was pretty unprofitable, and it was just a full day of hard labor. And
You muted, Pam.
Yeah, I know, sorry. We had a couple years in a row with really bad weather and we had a lot of trees left over from those.
but I think
So having
online,
them for sale and promoting them on the social media platforms is just like, you know, if we had a place where like they could come on a specific day once a month, where you come on this day if it suits you to come pick up from somebody's house or from the office, Ronnie's office. Maybe that would work. While I'm thinking about it, Joe, will you make a note to, on the next agenda, make a little slot for the grant work group on the agenda?
okay,
Because I'm realizing we don't have a slot.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, Mary Songster was asking if we were selling stickers. So that's another thing we could have for sale on the website. She wants to buy a bunch of them. So maybe we have a merch page or and if
Yeah.
we got t-shirts and trees and stickers for sale, maybe we could cut back on some of the labor. Are we prohibited from doing that in any way? Pam or Rodney, do y'all know? I mean, is there any weirdness associated with that? We don't charge tax?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Fundraising is one of the purposes of the Tree Council. It's a nonprofit organization and it's absolutely allowed to raise funds.
Do you know if we pay tax on, I guess we charge tax and we have to.
I don't recall that we did tax when we had the tree sales, because I don't remember ever sending anything into the state. Maybe we should have.
Tax exempt, I believe.
do people actually buy something, or do they give a donation?
Maybe that's how we get around it.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, we're not tax exempt for the purposes of selling stuff, I don't think. Chase looked into that long ago when he was the president and said that the paperwork to do that was just outrageously complicated. And so maybe we just do it in terms of donation, or maybe we've just been skirting this issue.
Yeah, I think Edith, you're spot on with that donation.
Well, I love that idea. And I was going to talk about it in promotions, but while we're here, I mean, what do you all, hi Phil, what do you think that we should charge for a sticker? I don't, I guess it depends on how much we paid for them. $2? Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
And then t-shirts. I was thinking that maybe we could, I would float a couple of ideas for t-shirts to the group after our, and maybe we could set that up as a agenda item for the next meeting where we offer up a couple different designs and vote on a design and a price that we would sell them, not sell them, for exchange and for donations on the website. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll work on having a place on the website where we sell t-shirts, stickers, and trees. Phil, we were talking about maybe selling seedlings of the tree that owns itself on, rather than planting them at Rock Springs. We would skirt some tax issues by really giving them in exchange for a donation.
Oh. Cool.
That was a good brainstorm.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. Yeah, we've got definitely a lot to discuss. I'm going to say we table the champion and landmark trees work group. Any discussion on that? And basically the only update on that was Sean volunteered to lead the work group, and there's probably a ton of training up ahead. Would be one of our first steps once we've got this thing kind of got the foundation laid for. It sounds like we had a huge amount of council members to volunteer, which is awesome. So we just need to hammer out the details on that. So yeah, I guess with that said, we'll just make a plan to run with that. And interview work group didn't have anything. It is now time for the Trees for Tomorrow work group. So Phil, I'll let you take the podium.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. Honestly, I don't have anything today except just a reminder to everyone who's on and the other council members who you might see or be in contact with that Friday at 1 p.m. is our Athens Arbor Day celebration out on the Firefly Trail. And looks like we've got one of our council members, county commission members that will be joining us. And I'm not sure about the other. I think Carol Myers has said that has RSVP'd, and I don't know about Mariah yet. But then we also have our liaison who will be reading the document for us. And other than that, just keep your fingers crossed for decent weather. Sounds like it might actually clear and be a nice day for it. Chilly, but nice. And that's all I have. Anybody else has anything, I'm happy to entertain it.
Yeah, I think just kind of in our executive and steering committee discussions, we've got a few different ideas that would probably tie in with Trees for Tomorrow. Mainly, the biggest hindrance in the past has been finding sites and areas big enough to accommodate, whether it be memorial trees or reforestation groves, future Firefly Trail planting areas, available right away, negotiating with, adjacent property owners that have given up that right away for the trail. With that said, we've talked about just a few minutes prior, maybe reaching out to some of the other nonprofits in town that are more land use based, so like the Athens Land Trust, the Oconee River Land Trust, and the county, Rodney has said, actually has some areas that they probably require a lot more navigation, meeting time, coordination, voting, that type of thing. But the county does have parcels as well. So just kind of putting that on your radar as something that the Trees for Tomorrow group would be definitely good to maybe reach out to some of those groups and maybe see where those lead. And some of the grants we've been looking at are longleaf pine restoration groves, which obviously will need a larger swath of area and small right-of-way areas, but yeah, just keep that on your radar there. I think grants and fundraising will be reaching out to you with a little bit more specifics on brainstorming those, but that's kind of the gist of it.
We have talked in the past about Athens Land Trust, and I got a sort of a negative feel for that among the group because of their lack of land, actual fee simple ownership of land. Now, maybe I know we talked a little about that area out on the Oconee River, just down the hill from Beach Haven and in there, but it sounded like most of what they had is either forested or is maybe going into homeowner lots or of some sort. I'm a little bit fuzzy on that. It's been a while since we talked about it, but yeah, I think that is something that we really need, or more opportunities for planting, regardless of whether it's private or county.
The Oconee River Land Trust has some like heritage sites where they're old farmsteads, kind of. Maybe that would be a little bit more open than some of the sites by our land trust.
Are those in Clarke County?
They're all over. So they do, the bigger ones probably are not. I know that they've got a couple of big tracts in Oglethorpe, so they operate, all around. But maybe, I don't know. I don't know about that site on Tallahassee that is now. Do you know anything about that site, Rodney? That's on Tallahassee Road. Is that now owned by the county, or is it under an easement? We're going to open it as a park?
Well, there's a large property out on Tallahassee. It's almost completely forested. It's a sustainability managed property. Sustainability manages some other properties around. They're basically conservation easements. A couple sites I can think of off of the top of my head, but it wouldn't be appropriate for long needles. There's a section of the greenway that was built last year that they knocked down all the invasive plants with one of those mulching machines, and now it needs to be replanted. And I do have a couple sites around in right-of-ways that could use a little bit of a tree planting plan, and then some replacement trees. That's really what I'm aware of right now. But I think having a conversation with sustainability, they know a lot of people all over the place. They know who the partners are, and that would be a good starting point.
So we also wanted to talk to Mike Wharton, and that was about that with the pine site. So we also wanted to talk to somebody in the office. Well, Mary Songster does some work with them as well. And she was trying to work with them on a carbon offset calculator. So we have a few reasons to talk to them. in my notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm happy to reach out to Mike Wharton from Sustainability about sites.
And I think school properties have been discussed a lot as possible sites as well.
And then there's other AHA sites, but I think we were hoping to get the UPS grant to sort of lead into moving on to another AHA site. So we wouldn't want to spend money that, could be spent somewhere else on
Right.
that site, and then us end up getting that grant next year. This REI, I don't know when we're going to have an opportunity to further explore these grants that, but we'll just have to have a separate work session on that. But this REI grant looks very promising.
Well, we're hopeful for the UPS grant. Or last I heard, when we had our full council meeting, it sounded like Stacy was going to follow up on that, and so who knows? Maybe it'll be our turn again.
Yeah. I'm going to email Nina about where we stand with that Georgia Power grant too.
All right. Well, so that does it for the trees for tomorrow work group. Looks like we're right on track for the promotions committee. So, Mary, you're welcome to share your screen if you want, or if you just want to cover it. Either way.
I need to leave, but I'll try to get you that tree information, Barry.
Okay.
So yeah, I've actually got a meeting coming up, so I got to run as well. But Mary, I'll let you take it away.
Okay.
And, yeah.
All right. It takes me a minute to figure out how to share my screen.
Thanks, everybody.
I think this is the one. Hey guys, I'm trying to share the email I sent. Well, we had a good brainstorm there with some of you were there and some were not, with Edith put together a great list of potential grants, which is very exciting. And we're going to need to, Edith, you might have stepped away, but I just want to follow up and say that I did ask Joe to put us a slot in the next agenda. We don't officially have a slot. So next time we have committee meetings, we will be able to have, 10 minutes to really talk about what we need to do.
Okay.
I plan to email Stacy about the UPS. So I'm taking some of our time to follow up on this. I'll email Stacy about the UPS grant, and then I'm writing Nina Wurzberger and including you about the Georgia Power grant. Would you like to reach out to the REI office about?
I was going to draft a letter to them, and I'll send it to you to see if there's anything that needs to be added to it.
I think that sounds great. And then also, I have a note to communicate with Mike Wharton. He is in the Office of Sustainability about potential sites for, there's so much extra noise on this. It's distracting. Y'all hear all that? About potential sites for the longleaf pine plantings. So that's all exciting.
I have heard that REI is potentially moving to Athens, so now would probably be a really good time.
Really? Wow.
And apparently they really like to invest money into the community ahead of moving in. So I think it's definitely worth looking into.
Yeah. Good to know. I had not heard that.
Well, I'll share, let's see. Stop sharing. And then Grant exploration, share. Did that work? Share. Okay, so this is the document that Edith started to put together, but just briefly, it says here's a synopsis of the REI grant. Urban pathways steward, planting trees along trails, teaching residents how to care for trees. So that just shows you, I mean, there's definitely unlimited potential. We might start to run out of some spaces along the Firefly Trail, but once we use all that money, we could further beautify that or other places along the Greenway, if not even the Firefly Trail,
There are always the connector trails too, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Other ones that what was the one? Well, she found more about Georgia Power, so we're going to talk to Nina about that. Oh, it was Southern Company, right?
Yeah, Southern Company. And there's, for those of you that weren't in the earlier meeting, there's a lot of emphasis on the longleaf pines, reestablishing forestation. And Rodney said, we may not be in the zone, but Pam suggested maybe experimental areas with that, because there were, I think, about 3 or 4 that really focused on that.
Yeah, and I think because of global warming, its zone is creeping northward, and they have given money to the Botanical Garden, which is in Athens, and the Chattahoochee Nature Center, which is just over in Cobb County. So
I questioned the
oh,
wisdom of longleaf pine plantings in
yeah.
this part of the country.
Okay.
They don't tolerate ice storms well at all, or snow loads, and I know that they occur. There's a montane longleaf distribution in the Ridge and Valley area of western Georgia, and maybe down around Pine Mountain in that area, but I don't think historically that this is longleaf country.
Okay. Well, shoot, I wish they'd give money for.
I wondered about that.
Other trees. Okay, well, there's a brief synopsis on exciting things for raising some more money. Then
I have quite of a question related to that. Have we given any thought to, and this may be something that needs to be added to the main agenda, but have we given any thought to, like, once we reach a certain amount of funds, like, does that trigger planting a tree? Like, say we raise $500, do we then plant a tree with that money, or like what do we do?
Yeah. Usually I think the way it's been done is we assess sites, like for the AHA sites, we got the grant money, so we knew how much we were awarded, and then we went to see where the site needed trees the most. And then we had enough money to buy a whole, by the time we get the equipment out there and all the people, it's better to have more than one tree to plant. So, it seems like we were dealing more with 15 big trees and then a few smaller ones. I don't know.
It seems like we've always done, like, okay, we do Arbor Day plantings and we do an MLK something, whether it's planting or mold spreading. And then there's like the specific trees for tomorrow funds. But if we raise additional money, I feel like there needs to be like, if we raise X amount, then we should plant a tree.
Yeah.
Is like about to make another donation half of New Urban, like in memory of one of our clients who passed away. And so this will be like $300 in 3 months that we have donated. And I'd like to know that that money is going to plant. And I realize, like, you can't say, okay, $100 plants a tree, but like if we reach a certain amount, that should trigger a tree planting, you know?
Yeah, I think it needs to be, there's a couple factors I think that go into that. While we know that it costs a lot to plant and maintain a tree, it doesn't actually cost as much as we say it does to get a tree in the ground. We like to say that $700 is our magic number to buy, plant, and take care of a tree for 5 years or whatever, but we get trees for less
Jesse,
money.
can I weigh in?
Absolutely. This is like a open for discussion
One thing
topic.
to think about is like, we're moving away from like specific tree planting, like memorial trees. So is there a way that you would feel good about, or that New Urban would feel good about giving a donation like that if you know that went to protect like a percentage of the canopy or to secure the canopy? Like think of it in terms of not an individual tree as a memorial tree, because I think that'll be difficult to maintain, and that we could be a stronger resource if the money's gathered and then used at its highest capacity rather than each time we reach a limit for a tree.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm
Maybe
not like trying to donate to an individual tree to be planted. Like that's not my goal. I mean, I think the overall goal is to raise money for the tree council. However, as a council, I feel like if we raise a certain amount of money that we say that it costs to plant a tree, whatever that amount may be, like Mary said, $700, even if it doesn't actually cost that amount, like it should trigger a tree planting on our part, and we could save all those like credits up and then plant, 5 or 6 at a time. But say if we raise $1,400 in the span of 6 months, then we should say, okay, well, we can plant 2 trees in the planting season.
Yes, I think we do that. I think that mentally we already do that. But I think what we get lost in sometimes is we are trying to find sites, right? And we're also trying to get money. And then we're kind of doing all of that at the same time right now. And so sometimes we may feel like we have the cart before the horse, but right now we're just starting at like ground zero.
I just don't feel like there is an actual correlation between like, okay, we've raised X amount of money and we are going to in turn plant these amount of trees,
Yeah, so would you like that stated somewhere? Do you think that that would be a good statement to have? Is that what you're craving? Oh.
Yeah, or that like we could evaluate that somehow. Mary, you're muted.
I think what you're saying, Jesse, is you think we should do metrics on ourselves.
So are
I
you
don't think there isn't any right now. I don't feel like.
I guess I'm missing what you're because we do say that $700 equates a tree. And
right,
we
but we've never been like, okay, we raised $700, let's go plant a tree, or we should plant a tree in January to reflect that,
Yeah.
So you're saying we should have benchmarks, and I think that would be helpful with the grant applications too, to say for every so much that is donated, so many trees are planted.
We do that, and I'll share with you the letter that I wrote to private citizens where we do say that $700 represents a tree. And that is kind of where our goal is, but we're not going to actually go out with our shovels. Like Jesse understands that. And I realize that's not what you're saying. We're not actually going to be able to go put a tree in the ground every time we get $700, but that is sort of our benchmark. And we also know that that's a lot to ask an individual to donate. So it's hard to say that out loud because it makes it seem, gosh, I only have $20 to give right now. So is it even worth giving $20 if it's not even, so it's almost like not something like to advertise. Because it seems in almost,
Get like a significant grant from a corporation like REI, we should be able to say, okay, we are going to use that grant to plant X amount of trees.
well, we do that. That's what we did at Athens Housing Authority. You know, when we get that certain amount of money, and then that kind of forms our budget.
But even on a smaller scale, I feel like anytime we reach a certain benchmark, like Edith was saying, like we should say, okay, we need to go plant a tree.
Keep a list. Keep a list. Like yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying, and I think we need to correlate and hold ourselves accountable for the amount of money that we have in the account with the amount of trees going around. Yeah. Especially when we start really raising lots of money.
Which is gonna happen.
Well, you mentioned, Mary, putting the cart before the horse sometimes, and we've kind of found ourselves in that situation. I mean, our memorial groves are full. We don't have new ones identified and acquired as far as planting rights for them yet. And, you know, I understand that and I think de facto we have not spent money on things other than tree planting projects, probably, though it's not codified in any way. So maybe going forward, we do need that, but we need as much advanced work locating places to plant and places that will maintain. And you put them in the ground and they die. That accomplishes nothing. So there's a lot besides just raising money. If an individual gives $500 and they don't give you a place to plant that tree, or we don't have a place with a void already there, then all we can do is hold the money until we have a place to plant.
Yeah.
So it's a fits and spurts kind of a thing. Maybe we just need to, so we have planted primarily in the recent past by using money from grants or from projects that we've come up with, but they've always targeted a particular spot that had a need for trees. So it wasn't just, I'm giving money because I want trees to be planted in Athens-Clarke County. And that could be problematic if we don't locate sites.
No, we need sites. And a lot of times our grants, like you're saying, are define where we have to plant those trees, which has been kind of nice. It's like we're committed to planting them. And
there was an overlay with the themes or the focuses and the grants too for disadvantaged neighborhoods, or what is called opportunity zones. And I know Athens-Clarke County government have a map of those opportunity zones. I tried to share earlier and I got somehow was thrown off audio, but I can email that to everyone.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, something on my end I missed all of your great commentary, Jesse. So I did, like, my thinking was like, if in your thank you note for the donation, it said like how much that contributes, like how close we are to meeting our canopy goals, or how much this helps the community as far as green space, is that not as satisfactory? I mean, I know the most satisfactory thing is like, this tree is yours, but is there something that would satisfy that need to know your participation?
I think it's really more of accountability for the tree council, not as a satisfaction for the individual who's donating. So like, I don't really care as New Urban donating that a specific tree was planted in a specific place, but I do care that that money goes toward tree planting, because that's the whole point. And so my idea is that we do have benchmarks, like Edith was saying. So it's really more about accountability on the tree council side of saying, okay, we've raised $2,500, we need to go out and plant 3 trees. Let's find sites for those trees, you know? So like when we reach a certain amount, we are triggered to therefore go and find places to put them.
Yeah.
Or
And
have
I
places
hope-
waiting, ready to go to put them
That's what I
for when
want.
the planting season is.
I think that we find a site and we say, gosh, this site needs 5 trees on the outside of the dog park fence or whatever. And then we are committed to filling the coffer to, you know, to get us to where we can buy planting seeds. We're also limited by the planting window, so we need to raise that money and time to get out so that we can get out there in January and February and get those in the ground, because we can't do it in May.
I think my biggest thing about it is that while it's not ideal to plant in the summer, you can technically plant 3/4 of the rest of the year, and the tree will be fine.
Would you be upset if the money went to maintain the plantings or maintain other plantings, or how
No,
would you
not
feel?
necessarily, and a portion of that should go toward maintaining it.
Right.
My point, I think the biggest reason why I'm bringing this up is because historically we do things twice a year, Arbor Day and MLK Day. And
That's because we haven't had any money.
And now that we are making efforts to raise more money, and I feel like more money is actually slowly starting to come in, like there's no reason why we can't plant other times other than those 2 days. And I feel like we should, if we raise a certain amount of money, then it should trigger like, okay, let's go actually use this money to do something.
Yeah.
There's a danger in the money leading the plantings. So like, as frustrating as it may be, you'd get a higher use of the money if within the tree council what we developed is, you know, a planting schedule. So you want something outside of Arbor Day and you know, MLK, thank you. You know, you want something outside of that, then because of all the things that like Edith and Phil are saying, like all the other logistics, in order for us to successfully, you know, use the money for, you know, to be successful, like I really think working the money, like don't worry about raising the money and having like too much money sitting around, honestly. What we need to work on is a longer term goal of like when those things go up and we get outside of the 2 plantings that we do, where is that in our planting schedule? You know, and so like first step 1 is like you said, like instead of like find a place, get the money, plant it, like that is not good budgeting. Like, you know, really like, so we want more money for an additional planting. Be finding a place, be raising the money, be figuring logistics out, and add it to the list as opposed to making a new list all the time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, or perhaps we can say, okay, our last planting of the season is going to be March 15th. If we want to put 5 trees in the ground, we'll need to raise X amount of money by March 15th in order to do that. Either way, we're going to go out and plant trees on March 15th.
I think that's good.
And how many trees we plant is based on how much money we raise.
Right. And that leads to a lot more accountability also on our end. You know, we have to be
And we have to have places that are suitable sites, you know. So it is kind of it is this dance, but it is good to keep kind of defining that and talking about it, because we are kind of starting this, you know, and it's hard to know, but so all of them kind of have to work in concert with each other. Good. Let's move on. Funeral home. I love that idea. I don't know if funeral homes ever offer, do they have like a list for families that are looking for suggestions for like in lieu of flowers? Is that something that Sean was alluding to? I certainly think we could put it on our website as being an option, like a donating opportunity for people is.
I feel like it's something that we need to reach. I think I'm thinking
So they're the legacy is to post all of the obits online in every newspaper like across the United States. And so really you're buying an ad space on legacy. That's what the current one is right now. There's like when you read the obit at the bottom, you can plant a tree. They in the obit often they'll say like give to, like the individuals may donate to, I mean the families may say donation, but on the legacy website is an advertisement that says plant a tree for your loved one. And so we'd basically it'd be buying ad space on the obit page.
Might be worth it. Might not. I
It's a
don't know.
steady business.
I just know a lot of the funeral homes will say,
In lieu of flowers. I think that's a family choice. A lot of people give to the Boy Scouts, and
If you get a chance, go and look at, as someone was just saying, go and click on the obits for Athens Banner Herald or the Atlanta paper or something, and look. There is an institutional opportunity to plant trees that's provided almost all the time now, somewhere embedded in the individual obituaries or at the bottom of the list of obituaries. And I tried to track that down. I'm not saying it's a scam, but I am saying that there is if you talk about no accountability, I would say there is zero accountability in a situation like that.
Mhm.
They could plant them in California, or they could throw them in the ocean, or they could just put the money in their pocket and no one would ever know.
Right. It's a sensitive issue too. It's not something that I would put on Facebook like, hey, if you know someone that's dies or is dying, it's just sensitive. But I do think that, how do you think we should?
that's kind of why I was thinking like reaching out to the funeral homes directly might be a better option so that they could make a suggestion when people are looking for options and saying like, and you can put in there instead of or in lieu of flowers, consider donating to the Athens Tree Council. If they made that suggestion, it would be different
Yeah.
than us putting it out there.
That could be as simple as us dropping off pamphlets to individual. I mean, I live a block from a funeral home, so dropping off the pamphlet to the funeral home saying, "Hey, we just wanted to let you know this option's out there for families. If if you see anyone that this seems like a good option." So that just a pamphlet might be enough to get people to start talking about it.
And
I
on
like
that
idea.
That's a great idea. We need some new pamphlets with our new logo. And yay, and stickers. We talked about it in the executive committee. So that's another item is, what do you think about $2 for a sticker? Is that good? Higher? $5? $5?
Yes. You need to more than cover the cost of the sticker. It's essentially a very light donation, and we can give them always if people donate, for whatever reason. We do tabling at the Green Life Expo, we can always have them there to give.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're going to buy them, like I would like to make it, I think $5 is
okay.
doable. Yeah.
And we talked about potentially, I'm using air quotes, selling trees and t-shirts on the website too, that came up in the executive committee meeting, that it would actually be more for an exchange for a donation, because we don't want to deal with having to pay taxes or charge tax. But we would say selling because we also accept donations without giving you a tree. So I was going to suggest or bring up, where do y'all think that should fit into the website? Is that on the donate page? Do we have a merch page? Could it be donations and merch?
I I think you could have shop, but I think it should be more. It can be more than one location. But like when I went to donations, thinking I would find a way to get merch. So I would click on either shop or donate to try to find something if I was looking for something. So
So we
I
did,
think if we're gonna call them donations, like if we're not selling them, like if we don't want to pay tax, like you said, I think that it should all be donate. And then,
yeah,
you know, you can donate for a t-shirt or whatever.
and just show a picture of the
No,
t-shirt.
I don't
it's
want
20
to.
bucks.
I don't think we ever have to pay
I don't
taxes, but
want
I'm not an expert on that. But
Go ahead, Phil.
I don't want to bring up something that'll get us in trouble, but I'm recalling other things that I've made donations to, and when I get a statement saying what I donated for the year, it it usually tells how much was donated, and it says that it has a caveat or a clause that says no item of value was received in exchange for this donation. So unless your t-shirts are worth nothing, you're going to have to do a subtraction if you give a t-shirt to someone who gives you a donation, it
Yeah.
seems like to me. Otherwise, you're going to get sideways with the IRS at some point, I think.
Well,
Maybe people should just buy them.
Pam was willing to look into all this, and I was going to follow up with I'm planning on following up, but she didn't know. Lee is very savvy in this regard and does so much with the Winterville Tree Council, up on the nonprofit status and all that. It's just, and we can certainly look at what Trees Atlanta and other places are doing, any other nonprofits in terms of shopping and selling. But I think that's something to think about. Tori, do you have
Just be a
any
good idea
legal
to
advice?
check.
I think you're muted.
I was just going to say, I was looking at the Athens Humane Society website, and they have a tab that says, like, I don't know if you can see it, it says get involved. And then it has subtabs that say donate, shop, reach out. So like maybe a get involved tab with like subcategories for donate, shop would be helpful.
I like that. And get involved is also a way, like if we have work days, we're always willing to have more people come out and help us, so that could be, so it does say shop, huh? I have a feeling they're probably doing the same thing. Okay. Maybe by the next official meeting, unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town, but I'm willing to, what do you think about researching some t-shirt designs and floating them to the entire council to be voted on and have a certain number of t-shirts made? And once we get prices for those, we can then decide what we want to charge for t-shirts. I think some places are getting away with charging as much as $28 for a t-shirt. I don't know what's reasonable, but in consideration for a donation, we have some cool logos that I think would look really good.
under current climate too, maybe like a buff.
Buff, yeah. And do you guys like a logo on the front, kind of where the front pocket is, or just one on the back? Or you guys have any brainstorming ideas about what you like on a t-shirt?
I love the leaf logo on the pocket. The center would be awesome.
We have some other logos that we're not even using. Like we could do the leaf logo on the front and do one of these like more artistic, one of those blob shaped things, I kind of like those. They're meant to look like a obscure kind of abstract forest, different colors, green. Jesse, do you do that for Nuff? You do the t-shirts?
Yeah, we use Old Guard graphics to print our shirts. I like them because a lot of the other places in town have a 24 item minimum, and Old Guard has a 12 item minimum.
Yeah.
I think that the leaf logo would look really good on a hat. I think people from my experience love hats, as if they're good hats.
Do you get hats from them?
I do, yeah. They do embroidery. They do stickers too, but I think sticker mule is easier. I love that hat, Phil. That's awesome.
I like embroidered hats
Uh-huh.
as opposed to the ones that are just printed. So that's what this is, and I really enjoy it. They're nice.
Yeah, I think an embroidered hat would be good. And they're a cheaper option to print usually than a t-shirt. Unless you get like a just super cheap white t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Do you do hats like Phil's wearing, or trucker hats, or a combination, or?
I don't have one around, I don't think. The best hat that I've found is a Richardson hat, and it's kind of a trucker style. I got the idea from a brewery in Asheville. The hat just fits well. It's a good design. I don't know. And ever since then, I've always recommended these Richardson hats. They're amazing. So.
And you can get those through Old Guard, or do you buy the hats and then they embroider them? They do the whole thing. All right, that's cool.
And I can give you an approximate cost if you give me just a second.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to talk about so that we're poised to offer it up and vote on it at the next meeting.
So for 12 hats, they're $14 a piece. And of course, the more that you order, the less expensive it is.
What do y'all just provide them for your employees? Is that what you do? Uh-huh. And then what were your t-shirts? Do you know?
Let me see. So our t-shirts are pretty inexpensive because they're just like a safety orange, like basic shirt. They're $5.69 a piece. And for a polo shirt, of course, it's more expensive. They're like $15 a piece.
I really like that brand. I think it's Canvas. Their shirts are very soft. And I've gotten several of those in recent years, and I tend to always like them. But I don't know if that's as.
I do use a very particular kind of t-shirt as well. Hold on, and I'll tell you.
And is it worth money to, I mean, be careful about the sourcing? Like, can we source USA cotton? It's possible to source, Made USA. And so like, that's out there. It gets more expensive, but like, honestly, the kind of person that's going to get the t-shirt from us, those would be in line with the values I think they'd be looking at anyways. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's always like, the tencel shirts too that are made from trees.
So is that an upcycle, the tencel, or is it a raw product? Do we know?
I think it's a raw product.
Yeah, I think it is too. Yeah, so an upcycle would be awesome if we could figure out. We might ask. There's this guy, Jesse. I went and checked out the. What's the? Oh, I just forgot his name. Whiskey Stitch.
Austin, yeah.
Austin. So Austin might be able to help us find something like super niche and cool. Austin is, first of all, super talented tailor, but also like worked for Patagonia, very good at figuring out those kind of things. So we might try to, instead of just doing a regular thing, we can have some regular things, but maybe we try a niche thing with help. Like, I would love to go back to Witchy Stitch and talk to Austin and his wife some more.
Yeah.
Is that a,
Fascinating.
is that
Oh,
an
I'm sure
Athens person?
Hmm?
Is that an Athens person?
They're over where the Crab Shack is, and where the some fitness center, Purple Planet Fitness Center. I don't know what it is. Where the old credit union. I run outside, so yeah. So I mean, that's a little bit more involved, but like making these things more niche and more local might have good benefits in the long run.
The shirts that I typically use are next level shirts. They are soft and a nice quality. They stand up well to time. I have a million of them.
Okay. Happy.
But I do like that idea of like coming up with some sort of niche product. I'm sure he could like etch it into like a leather keychain or something.
So I guess we just need to run some prices. And Mary, do you want to talk to them about? Do you mind? I hate to put more on your plate. I'll send you all the logos, and I'm happy to do this, Jesse, through your old guard, unless you want to do it. I feel like you have enough to do with the website. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Once I get a little bit more done on the website, unless somebody else wants to do it, I can work on a pamphlet too. I mean, it'd be nice if we had an existing design to work from, but if not, then I can start from scratch. I don't know who would have that.
Phil has some. Don't you have pamphlets, Phil?
I don't know that I do anymore.
Okay.
I did. Rodney may have a few in the office there where they were turned back in. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Ronnie might. I think that was something Mark had. I think Mark had taken that on as something that he was willing to do, and then he had to drop off because he took that other job. So, I think that was
I
something,
think
because it was part of, he's
whatever
on
we had,
education, and he was going to do it as an educational promotions thing, and so it never happened.
It's one of those things that's very similar to the website in that it's really easy to do if you have all the content to put in it. The hardest part is always coming up with the language and the, you know, like the stuff to put in there. Putting it all together takes very little time.
I do think it makes sense
I fear
for
that
us
whatever
do
we have, I fear that whatever we have is so out of date that while you might have the concepts there in the graphs to work with, it would be a lot like starting from scratch as far as
right.
And we could use a lot of the same.
information.
If we have the same logos and pictures and all, should be a fairly easy transition, right? I feel like you might have emailed it to me, Phil. Is that a possibility?
I think I did it to you.
I feel like
I may
somebody,
have to you, and
remember
I'll
that?
look and see. I may have one example left around somewhere that I didn't hand back in.
I
If
think you
so,
took a picture of it. I think you took a picture of it and texted it to us.
I'll look and see. I like the idea of that pamphlet. We were talking about using it with perhaps funeral homes and that sort of thing. Partly because if you use it as fundraising, you can speak not only to the planting of trees, but to the broader entire mission of the council as a point for people to donate to, so that the education of the populace, the maintenance and of the existing trees and so forth, in addition to the planting, would be spoken to.
So on the to-do list would be, man, it'd be great, Jesse, if we could have a work session to knock out some website stuff. We have spring break over the next meeting. Clark County spring break got changed, right? So you'll be,
We have like a mini spring break March 11th and 12th. And then an actual spring break in April.
all right. So I think our next CCC meeting is on the 8th.
Okay.
And today is the 15th. We have 3 weeks to maybe put together some t-shirt ideas and pamphlet ideas and maybe knock out some of these to-do items that I sent in that email today. That's good about stickers. I don't think we need a vote on that, but I do think we need to float t-shirt designs. So Mary, if you wanted to talk to your guy, and I'll reach out to the Nuff company. I've also used, you said Old Guard? Is that who you said? Is that, you know the guy that owns that?
Haywood?
No, it's a different one. Anyway,
We've used Satisfactory too, and I like Satisfactory. They do great work, but they just have a larger minimum.
yeah.
Satisfactory's recently gotten rid of their minimum. I mean, I think with all, yeah, because I think with all the changes, you know, there's not all the big group events they have been doing. And so I don't know how long it'll last, but currently they don't have a minimum. But in the past, they've had like, it had to be 25 or 50. It was pretty big. So, but right now they don't have that.
Good to know. And they did a lot of work with the community to try to help raise funds for struggling businesses. So
we could look into that. I think we could easily get rid of, the problem is having a range of sizes, but I would assume that all of us would probably purchase a shirt. And between the emeritus members and all that, we have, you know, but I don't know how to sort out the range and sizes.
When I did all the Pro Chicken shirts, it was, I'll have to look back on my numbers of the women's sizes versus the men's sizes. And I have those numbers somewhere, but it's like some, not as many XL, mostly small and women's, you know, small and medium women's, not very many larges. You know, but just a couple of large and XLs and women's, and then mostly men's is like some, you know, a couple of smalls, which is really juvenile size, and then mediums, larges, and some XL and some XXL.
I guess the women that would be buying a large or an XL would be happier with a men's cut anyway. Is that kind of the, I don't know.
I don't know. I like a women's cut, and I don't want it to be so snug.
yeah, I get frustrated when there's not a women's option because most men's shirts are way too big for me.
Tiny person. I like women's cuts too, but I tend to buy a large. Okay, so other things. Do y'all think we should have a Twitter presence? Does anybody use Twitter? Okay.
I have one for New Urban, and I occasionally check in on it and get frustrated because I don't really understand what's going on.
I don't know how to use Twitter.
And then I sign off because I don't know. I think it's really more if you have a constant stream of information that needs to be shared, or
Yeah.
a hot topic that you're interested in as an organization, I think it's more useful. But
Yeah.
in our slow news cycle with the Tree Council, I'm not sure that it's really relevant.
No. Great.
We have Instagram though, right? Because like, I think the Instagram's way more useful. I think Jesse's right. Like, I mean, we have a sort of beautiful seasonal situation.
The thing that
I like that.
you know, so I share the articles on Facebook, but that's the benefit of Facebook is that you can share links. Instagram, you can like put a temporary link up, but it's not a permanent post. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah. It
Um,
would really be more for sharing like the bios and events, pictures, and that sort of thing.
yeah, it's good to have both.
Yeah.
So I have Twitter and I like to, I don't use it, I don't post on it, but I like to follow different people. And I will just say like NASA and National Geographic get like 1,000 responses. So people aren't very interactive with things that aren't like pop culture. I mean, like Four Seasons Total Landscaping got a lot of attention for like the Giuliani thing, but I think that's the most popular I've ever seen anything having to do with like the environment. So if even people like NASA can't really get a following, I don't think it's worth us doing it.
Now that Donald Trump's been banned, I mean, what's the point?
One of the ones I would like to suggest is nextdoor.com because it'd be very relevant. And there are a lot of users in Athens for that.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
I'm on that.
the people that are on it have a yard they could put a tree in, or
I'll look into it.
I think they'd be interested in, you know, sometimes things come up about how do you plant a tree, or, I just moved to Georgia. What should I put in my yard? I think it's a good opportunity for educational little snippets.
Mm-hmm. So you're go ahead.
Suki posts stuff for recycling who does our media? Jeff Montgomery. He posts notices, like community notices, like if we're going to have tornado warning tryouts, or so. There's other city stuff that gets posted on the Normal Town Next Door.
Okay. So certainly our upcoming events, or the fact that like, hey, check out our website, it's up now, or
yeah.
Okay. And maybe not as frequent, but included on some things. Edith, you are now the chair of education, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so if there's anything, from any of the archives that you have that you would like to see included on the website or the pamphlet, just stay in communication as you're gathering, your mission and whatever else. I'll share the pamphlet with you too, but since we're kind of, going to make that a Phoenix as well.
Holly was interested in doing a webinar that would be like on how to plant a tree.
Mm-hmm.
There's even like that could be posted, I think.
Okay, that's good for next door. Yeah.
That reminds me, Mary, I found someone who can be a videographer for when Lee teaches us how to do the measurements and ID for landscape trees. So what I figured was like, I'm going to offer the person $100. And so either I can just pay that out of pocket, or I can pay it to CTC, and then CTC can give them the $100. However you guys want to do that, I don't care. But it seemed, just especially during those times when we're so remote, it's really just a nod. It's not much to pay him, but I felt like I had to pay him something.
So nice. That is very awesome. I'm happy.
And then we can add that, so like I'd love to, because I don't have the skill to make those little videos, and that can be, so whenever we have other opportunities to do that.
That'd be great. We can do an Instagram TV thing of it.
Absolutely. That'd be cool.
I love those. Okay. When is that going to happen? Do we know?
I don't know. So I think the next meeting, I guess we'll decide when Lee's going to train us. And so that, I'm not sure the time's on that. It's probably in my notes from the last meeting, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay. So I talked to Phil and about getting the rest of, this is for Tori too, if you're still on, but getting the last of those fill in the blanks for that chart of past projects. And Phil sent me the receipt from the 2019 planting at Broad Acres. I think we're still missing the 2018 planting at Rock Springs, but I think at this point I'd like to have it. but we need to just make sure that we're keeping good records from here on out, right? So, Tori, if you can hear me, I am gonna ask that like all these receipts start to get copied to you if you're up for maintaining that what do you call it, Google Sheet. So I'll email her if she's working right now.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, my internet's just being shady. So if I don't turn video on, it's more stable. But I'm here and I'm happy to do that. That's totally fine.
Awesome. And then are you willing to also kind of maintain a Google Doc of consolidating answers from that bio? I emailed at the last minute today about that, so you might not have read it yet.
Yeah, I got your email and I'm good to do that too. That's not a problem.
Okay, you're getting stuck with some boring administrative stuff. But just let me know if it shouldn't take long. I'll show you what I've already done. We're using up all of our time, but I will follow up and email all this later today. Okay, so I'll start sharing that, and then I need to sort out who has gotten the form, who has filled out the form, and who needs to be reminded, and who never has gotten the form, and send that out to new people. So I will get on that. And Jesse, I never did an MLK post. So if you have any pictures to share with me.
They're up on the website now, so you could just take whatever.
Okay, I'll do that. All right.
I can send them to you. If that doesn't work for some reason, just let me know and I can email them to you.
I didn't even think of that. There's no reason for you to spend the time. If I can just copy and paste them into Instagram, I'll do that. And then, so then, I don't know, let's later try to talk about when we can get together and do some of this computer stuff. That helps you get stuff done on the website. We need to update our location. Yeah. Me too, for sure. Update our location. Maybe create.
I'm going to do that right now. That's easy.
Okay. Throw in a link to county website agendas and minutes. Yes, Phil. You're muted. You're muted. Phil, you're muted.
Can you make a note to email me your physical mailing address so I can send you hard copies? I did find a couple of pamphlets I'd like to send to you. Okay, thanks.
Great. And then that's another thing I'll add to our agenda, Jesse, for when we get together, is maybe brainstorming a layout of a pamphlet. That's easy probably, right? And Google, you would think in Google Docs, do they have a sort of layout? You can probably get a template for that, right?
For a pamphlet?
Mm-hmm. Can you just get them printed?
Yeah, it's a little bit more, there's more to it than that. In fact, let's see, we have 4 minutes. I can, hold on 1 second.
Or is it an Adobe thing?
Yeah, so I make them in InDesign. I don't have that one yet. Let me see. So I'm making one for our sister company right now. So, you know, it's like this, there's 3 pages for this is the front and this is the back and this is the inside kind of folder. And then there's 3 pages here and you have to lay it all out. And as long as you have all of the components for it, like it's really not, it doesn't take that much time, but you have to have all the stuff, you know?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, I mean, you may be able to make it in Google Docs, but it just...
that looks great. You get the spacing right and everything.
I use a free online service called Canva, and there's a bunch of them out there, but you can, but they don't print it. So then I just print off whatever I've made on my home computer So it's not, I mean, but you can take that and then through them, they'll print them, but I'm not
Yeah, you can
volunteering for
send the
this job
template
because I can't.
to printers and like you could have them printed at like Belgian and they can do it.
Phil, I'm texting you my address. I'm including Jesse on here. Maybe you could send one to each of us
Sure.
because Jesse's going to be doing it. And then Jesse, when you get it, you can give him your address too.
And Jesse, to take it off your plate a little bit, also, like, Belgian offers like layout services. So if you provide them the information and any pertinent graph that you, or logo that you need to have on there, they can actually add graphs and, you know, they can do a layout. There's a fee for it. It's probably nominal, but maybe look into seeing if that's worth it to have them lay out the brochure and then print it. And they can print it in-house, like on just 20-pound white paper, you know, and it can be color printed, or it can be fancier or glossier paper. I mean, that's a print job that has to be sent out, actually. I used to work at Belgian.
That's great. So we need to get prices on what that would cost, t-shirts, hats, and I'm going to ask that we put that up for a vote next week because we need more promotions money. We spent all of our promotions money. We got note cards, stickers, and those prints of the tree that owns itself. And it was just $250 that we were given. So we're probably going to need another chunk of change. We did drum up some more individual donations, you know, through PayPal. So maybe we can ask to use that for more promotional materials. So
I'm about to donate another $100 from New Urban, so we can earmark that for promotional items.
hush. So I think that does it for us today. We didn't actually do any of our little to-do list task items, but I feel really good about being more centered on getting that stuff laid out. Anybody have any last minute additions? Otherwise, I'll hand it over to policy. All right, y'all have a good day.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all. Should we wait a second or go ahead and get started and people can just tag in when they get here?
I don't know. I don't know if we have to operate on a quorum system or not.
So for policy committee meetings, we don't have to vote on anything. We're just it's all discussion. So
Okay.
yeah, we should be okay as far as the rules go. Is that true, Rodney, or am I? You're on mute.
I'm sorry, I was messing around with the computer. What was the question?
We're okay to begin discussion without a quorum, right? Because there's no voting or it's just discussion.
Well, yeah. So I mean, almost by definition, in some ways, the committees don't really have quorums, so to speak. That's really more in the bylaws with the tree council itself.
Okay.
I don't think it's ever been specified as far as a quorum for the committees.
Then let's go ahead.
Okay. So, does anybody have anything to say before I get started, I guess? Lee, anything? Rodney? I realized that I needed to back up and try to clarify something that really I've been trying to clarify for myself. A year ago when we started, I thought I was going to do one thing, but as almost always happens in life, I think I'm going to be doing another thing. And so I thought I would start on the policy committee, and there would be specific policy that would need to be worked on and move forward. And but what I think after being here for a while, what I realize is in the reincarnation of the CTC, to date, the advocacy advisory portion of the CTC has not been like established. And so I want to try to have policy be something that we're reestablishing a relationship with planning primarily for advocacy and advisory. And in the advisory capacity, I'm thinking for us, like the steering committee for the Greenway, for the master plan, like what we are doing is literally advising in what we see in the tree policy, primarily to planning. And so we would develop opinions on things like parking lot trees and downtown, and submit our opinion with as much information as we have. And especially after my meeting with Bruce and Aaron, which was really fantastic, Bruce definitely encouraged us to make like a big list. And so, and part of the encouragement was that we didn't have to create the master plan or even make sure that it necessarily fit into that. We didn't have to necessarily craft the exact language as required by law for it to be a policy or a ordinance. But as an advisory board, Bruce seemed to welcome like what our opinion was on places in the policy that we thought needed to be looked at or improved upon or changed. And so when I am thinking about what Joseph has brought up about like the parking lot trees and the setback requirements for plantings, like I think that we can, as a group, write basically an opinion on that and then forward that to planning, and hopefully to have our committee do this like all the time. Like for me, in this year that y'all have me for this next year, I know a good bit about the built environment and where plantings intersect the built environment and the policies and codes that go along with that. I don't know anything about parks. I don't know about, easements, right? The road plantings and all that. So for me, my time spent on looking at the policies that relate to that. I mean, those are places I have an opinion on. So let's see. And beginning to develop advocacy and policy advising for me, and I think for the CTC, but I certainly can't speak for everyone. And I think this is acknowledged in planning in the conversations I have. It's acknowledged definitely with Mike in the Office of Sustainability and with Andrew in Central Services. Our policies are still, it's not a surprise, they're behind, and they're still based on a concept of trees and ecology that we are not, that we want to move away from. We want to move towards a newer or more updated thinking on how we approach all the management of what we've got going on in our community. And so our advice in our advisory capacity would be to advise towards that change. And so that is very broad in what I'm thinking, and what we'll take the broad idea I'm hoping, and we work on these specific things. Like I have some, like, I wish Joseph was here because I asked about the, to Bruce and to Aaron, I asked about the, where did the setbacks, the 30-foot setbacks come for the planting requirement currently for developments. And Bruce said that is from the very beginning. Connie Head, our first forester, was looking around at other communities and similar plantings. So literally that code was put in place without any evidence of it being successful in our community. So now after 20 years, I think we can ask them to, our advice is we would advise them to review that policy to see if it's been successful and to see if an adjustment might be needed. And so one thing about thinking about this is like, it's going to be big, but also small. Like we're going to be asking a specific thing or advising on specific things, but all of it will go to a better, wholer, canopy and ecology plan for the community. So with that, what do y'all think?
That sounds great. I'm much more comfortable with that approach. That just seems to make a whole lot more sense with what I understand of how things are working out there. Uh, so yeah, and yeah, so without going into the weeds on things, I already have a couple things in mind. I do have a bit of information to address one of Joe's concerns, and that concern was, as he stated, a requirement, a spacing requirement. It was either 30 or 35 feet in between the trees. That's actually not true. That was the ordinance as it's written doesn't require a specific spacing. It requires a specific amount of trees per linear feet of right of way um, uh, length. And so you can actually group the trees in order to get the trees away from the my phone's ringing, sorry. To get them away from the intersections or driveway cutouts or things like that. So that a lot of designers sort of interpret it as a 30-foot spacing, but that's really not required.
So in keeping with that, when you read the language, because I've noticed this in the parking lot trees too, the parking lot trees is 1 tree per every 7 spots. And so that's literally what the developers do. And the designers read it very straightforward, 1 tree per every 7. And so I would like to encourage planning to amend the language, to change the language to say the trees that are required, but they can be blocked together, which is that nutty drawing that I sent you. So that would actually like save the developers money potentially, and that they don't have to pour more concrete, they don't have to make more area. They do have to originally dedicate more space to the trees, but they can do all their trees in one go, which would probably be better for the trees, probably be better for variety, and and for the successful planting. And so that also involves changing the language to like, it's right now we plant the trees. The idea is that it provides shade for cars. And so if we are moving forward, if we try to plant trees for cars, I think we will be continually disappointed. And so Rodney, do you have like data on anything to show that like, I don't think under the current, like where they read it as 1 per 7, we'd ever have successful trees where the canopy would touch. I mean, maybe like, I think the Kroger parking lot's probably the most successful one. I'm more of a West Sider, so there may be something on the East Side that's successful like that. But, we would have so much more success with just the idea that trees provide a cooling element in the environment by being a tree rather than shade. And so that's one recommendation I want to work on in language about advising about tree parking lot planting. And
yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if the research divides it out to that degree. I mean, certainly sunlight and dark surfaces are going to generate heat, and they're going to serve as a heat sink. But research is really clear that groupings of trees are more successful, and groupings could also preserve soils better. Keep them in a more undisturbed state. So it's well worth exploring that concept. As far as the shading goes, the taller the trees, the more the taller and the more mature the trees are, that's where you're going to get your most benefits. So by far, the very largest trees provide the most benefits, and that the height will also reduce afternoon sunlight, which will then reduce that urban heat sink on those paved surfaces. So there's probably research out there, but I'm not aware of it specifically.
And I wonder if even just recommending like planting in pairs, like at a minimum, like instead of like we have a tree island minimum. So that was the other recommendation I was thinking of, if you guys think it would be useful, like as they, I believe the community is going to move towards decreasing parking minimums. There's a lot of push for that from other areas, for more about the cars, not about the trees. But as they decrease, and more about the density, like we're going to get more dense, and so they're going to want the building, they're not going to want the parking spaces, and we're going to have parking decks and things like that, some way to offset the parking. But as they decrease the minimum for parking, I would like them to increase the size of the plant island requirement, so that we are asking for a bigger space at the same time we're asking for less parking, just to have that in there as an offset. So if you guys think that is good language, I'm thinking of including that in what I would advise.
Well, by far, the more soil you can preserve, the better. Like healthy soils is what will grow healthy trees. And I just want to, I caught wind, and I don't know any details, but I want to put this on your radar. There is a proposal, I guess, out there to allow mass grading for development. Like we really should look into that, because that's the worst thing you can do from a tree health perspective.
Right. Yeah, that the debacle that is the amphitheater out there heading towards the nature center, like I do not know how they got permission to do that. You know, that baffles me, and I would love to stop that. I mean, that should never happen again. That's a terrible, that grading, it was a massive grade. It was almost like they did that so that they could grade it, so then later, you know, the next development doesn't have to be in trouble for that. You know, it's not good. That's bad.
This advising capacity that you're talking about, would it be just in general, here's some guiding principles based on, you know, open soil surface area kind of thinking? Or is this, do they want our opinion on specific projects? Would that be welcome?
I don't think specific projects is what they're asking for, but what we are looking at is literally the policy. Like, how do we ask people to plant? What are we asking developers to do? What are we asking? And it would even get into some private plantings, but really, I think, especially initially, really think about the community trees and the row trees and the the development trees, not private property trees initially, because that kind of is the CTC's advisory capacity. You know, that's what we're set up to advise on. So it would be anything you see, like where Rodney says, like he noticed that they're looking at something that would be allow for mass grading for development. Well, we would have an opinion on that. So when you're looking around or when you see something, you know, you're noticing when there's a redevelopment and the tipping scale for a strip mall is met finally, and they have to redevelop that parking lot, and they don't change the tree canopy at all. And so you would say, like, I want them to look at the tree canopy and see, why isn't that changed when that is redeveloped, you know, and or what is the tipping scale? Is it too high, too low? Things like that. Right now it's 10%. Go ahead, Rodney.
I just have a question for clarification. We're talking about tree ordinance and ordinance change, right? When you say policy, you're really referring to ordinance?
I really am referring, yeah, to the ordinance. Yes, I'm talking about policy. Yeah. And so there is some, like, so in our capacity is really just to give advice on what we see would be useful for planning, you know, and ostensibly the mayor and commission too. And so I'll have a little caveat in that I think also policy is a good place to begin to ask as advocates for, to tell the mayor and commission, hey, basically it's almost all, you know, this needs funding. You guys are underfunding this needs funding, take a look at this. And that's what that letter is. That letter, which by the time I would send it to the mayor and commission, I would add a specific thing, like a specific thing that I'm asking. That's a general feeling about why we would do it, but then I would add specifically when Andrew goes to ask for money to say, please, you need to consider fully funding Andrew's request, is basically what that letter would serve as. And we would have other letters like that, you know.
That absolutely is one of the primary purposes and functions of the tree council. And I would say that the more those documents or presentations are backed by facts,
yes,
good, hard, solid, well-researched facts, the better.
So please, I ask for help with that. as I stated in my email, I tend towards narrative. And I know that the narrative comes from information that I have read, but you guys need to help me. I need your help with the facts.
They're out there. I'm somewhere. Sure, we'll find them.
Send them to me. edit that document. Because those are persuasive, and Rodney and I have discussed to some extent that like the policy people are is not the mayor and commission. The mayor and commission does vote on policy, and they're the ones that say yes, this is how we will proceed, this is how the budget goes. But really our policy people, the walkers, Brad and Blaine and Andrew, and I'm sure there's other people those are the people I've dealt with primarily in the government. There's probably other policy people out there. But so when I craft something where I'm going to ask the mayor and commission to spend this money, they have people, the staff, and Rodney's staff and everybody sends them information that says we need this money, and so I want it to be a more of a like, this is what's also what we believe. This is how the community should spend its money.
Okay.
So
I think that's a solid strategy, Mary.
okay. Bruce did help me figure out also, and this is small and a little bit in the weeds, in talking about how one of the sticking points for the asking for a fee to be attached to a waiver is it a apples for apples? Like, if they're not going to plant a tree here, do we physically plant a tree here? And Bruce had me see that since we're going to have a tree master plan and we have a canopy planting goal already in our, what is that? Is that in the
It's part of the tree ordinance, and
yes.
it's a 45% requirement by ordinance.
So we can probably attach the fee to saying that it's going towards meeting this part of the canopy requirement. And that gives us some leeway of what we can actually use the fee for. The fee can then possibly can be used for planting wherever the canopy needs to be improved, and might also allow us to keep the canopy alive, so we may have just found the way to make that fee not a usury tax, not an exact apples for apples, which we'd never be able to match. Like the times where they get the waiver, the reason why they get it is because we can't fit it in. So this will allow us language to recognize the value and have some kind of addition to the overall value of our planting. So Bruce and I are going to keep working on that. I'm trying to think what else. The landmark trees, as far as planning goes, when we talked about like incentivizing through policy, Bruce didn't think the planning was actually a strong place to incentivize landmark trees. He really did think that was more of an advocacy, like an attaboy from the mayor and commission, recognition. If we do an Arbor Day recognition, that would be more successful. So for us, as far as like helping with the landmark or those type of special specimen trees, that just supporting, I think the whatever kind of recognition we would give to individuals that are willing to do that. Probably best. But from the planning point of view, it's not a strong position to put that into to codify that, I guess. And so for us, I think that puts us out of the loop as far as what we would advocate for.
So the landmark trees do exist in the code, as well as the Village Avenue Historic District trees that are also protected. But it's interesting, the way the landmark tree code is written, it very much is written as a kind of an encouragement, sort of a bragging rights thing, but it doesn't really have a lot of teeth. So the way it's written, it couldn't really exist as anything other than a kind of an outreach, feel good type of a program.
Well, I think for us, we just continue to support like what CTC develops as a way to congratulate people on
Yeah.
supporting that kind of canopy.
And the champion trees, they will automatically fall under the landmark category, so they're very easy to, by definition, to make them a landmark tree. So they'll kind of fit in that way.
Cool. That is good to know. Let's see what else I had here, you guys. So one thing also, as far as like for policy, like for us, since we've chosen to be here, you know, we have some ideas about it, but we can also ask the broader CTC if they want us to look into something that is sort of neglected them. So at the next meeting, if we want to reach out and say, does anyone have something they want us, you know, just shoot us an email. It's simple as that. And we'll start looking into it. And then we can work on language, and then we'll bring the language back to the committee. And so I'm actually hoping by the next meeting to have some language of advice for the things that Joseph has brought up. I don't think I can get much further than that, honestly. And then I'm going to follow up with Andrew and ask him if there's some more specific language I can put in the request for the downtown trees. And already,
on that document, it reads well. Good work on that. I did notice it didn't talk about tree chambers. I didn't know if that was intentional, but
no, will you send me that as an edit, or send me that as a email? You can just email me if you want, like any of that where I haven't been specific or haven't included in something you can do, just to put it in the ear of the mayor and commission, just so they've seen the language. Like I want to include as much of that language. They're like, oh yeah, tree chambers. I know what that is.
I think it's always important to include in the conversation to talk about available tree volume space.
Okay.
So soil space is critical. So it's kind of the same thing as the parking lot trees. We're just putting it underground.
Okay.
But people have to understand you have to have a certain amount of underground soil space in order for a tree to be able to thrive.
And the added thing with downtown, where we only have certain times, we don't have that opportunity to get in there whenever we want to make that viable. Like, you know, when they open it up for water, they open up, that's our time. And so what I want them to have is money available. So right now, when that happens, we don't have money to go. You know, there's not money available. And I think it'll be a general like shift of mindset of the value. I mean, I know that you're familiar with this, Rodney. It's like right now they just think of it like an add-on, like it's an additional thing. And so it'll just be a shifting of the mindset that the value of this is only maintained, you know, if we have, you know, this much money available for it, and that we lose the value quite quickly if we are.
You're 100% right in that it is viewed as an addition or an add-on or an afterthought. The landscaping budget is always the first budget to get cut. And it's always assumed that the community can just pick up the tab and sort of plant some trees and everything will be great. And this is widespread across the country. So having that conversation in a thoughtful way, I think really could help Athens out a lot.
I was wondering, in crafting advocacy for landscaping, do you have information you can send me? My thought was that like what they think is exactly what you say, is like they think, oh, we'll just pick this up when we have money and time to do it. You know, like we can't go out to eat every Friday because the budget's tight, you know. But I believe there would probably be a significant financial loss, like if we let the resource die or go or become stressed, then we actually have to pay more money when we finally pick it up again.
Yes.
Any numbers?
So basically, by planting the trees correctly in the first place, you reduce the amount of costs over time. It's hard to quantify, but it's a primary aspect of the conversation in urban forestry, the field of urban forestry. So you're going to have to pay at some point. You plant a tree, you're going to have to pay to remove it because it just dies, and or you're going to have to pay to deal with disease. You know, so a little bit upfront investment can really go a long way toward both increasing the quality of those plants and extending their service life, and also reducing the overall costs over time.
So you would say, to paraphrase, that if we had a regular budget consideration for this, that it is over time that actually saves the overall expense in the community as far as plantings.
Yes. However, you have to be careful about the way you think about that, because that's assuming there's already a certain um, dedicated budget in place. I don't know if, I mean, there is budgeting. I don't really think it has it broken down as a per unit cost for trees. And a
Yeah.
per unit cost is really the right way to look at it. So, and then once you have that per unit cost, you know how many trees you have, you know how much is being spent to maintain those trees, then you can look at it. So this part kind of goes into the strategic aspect of it, but you can calculate the benefits being produced by those trees, and then you can come up with a net value. So there is ways to quantify that, but you have to have certain factors in place before you're able to do that well.
Would reaching out to Office of Sustainability and thinking of what their goals are for green space be useful for us as far as adding our plantings or trees to that vision?
Possibly. So your individual street trees are way different, sort of, kind of a really different. It's a different thing from, like your group planning or your forested areas or your natural landscapes. They are managed different, and they have different cost equations involved. So one of the ways that trees are thought of, well, I'll just say on average, the per unit cost nationwide is somewhere between $2 and $14 per tree. Some communities will be higher. Many communities don't have that data or that information, and Athens does not have that information or that approach. So that's one way you can think about it. It's a little bit easier to define things that way, and it's a little easier to track it over time through surveys and analysis and that sort of thing. Groups of trees are harder. You can do it, but it's much more difficult to get the data on it.
In thinking about like what Connie started versus what you have now, I mean, I don't know what's been dropped out.
So,
or like, has it been a good progression? Or
yeah, it's an excellent progression. So
okay.
Connie and the Tree Council did excellent work in getting professionals hired and in getting a tree ordinance put into place. And now the natural place to go in that progression really is, they started the tree inventory. They did great work. And so the next place to go with that is to generate a good set of analyses with the data that we have, which we're working on, and then begin work on a strategic plan, which
Right.
then can help create an adaptive process. So an urban forest is an immensely complex system. We can't possibly know all the variables. If we wait until we know all the answers, we'll never get there. So we just pick a starting point. We assess the community. We assess the trees and come up with some information, and then start make a list of goals, and then you can start implementing programs toward achieving those goals, and then you can go back and ask, how are we doing? Are we meeting our goals? Not why are we not meeting them? Do we need more resources? Do we need to make adjustments? What do we need to do? And that's where a strategic process really helps.
And I do know that planning would welcome, like when you get the tree count done and when you get that plan done, like they certainly welcome adding that layer onto their development goals and their planning goals. And I look forward to that being wed to that, because I think that'll be super useful. And I mean, I know from our end of development, like developers in general, they do whatever the rule says, and for the most part, they do it to the letter of the rule. So there, you know, there's a handful that think about like creatively about that, but that's actually not what they do. You know, they follow the rules to do what they do. And so if we can make the rules progressive, they'll do it. You know, they'll do whatever it is we tell them to do. Yeah. Lee, what do you want to do with policy?
Well, I've been on it for a while, and I was interested in tweaking the ordinance to have more, wait, I've got some notification about my background noise. Okay. To give more protections for trees on residential lots. But now I see what's involved in that. And I think that it is a better use of our time and energy to go about the way that we're doing it with the areas that we actually can influence without getting into the whole undertaking of changing this and potentially impacting private property rights and the screaming that will ensue. So I think this is a really good way of, you know, the document that you're talking about, now that you've established that relationship with planning, that's a great place to start because we're getting at the development stage. And if we can change things at that stage, that will go a long way towards just maintaining the cover.
Well, I would like to encourage you to go ahead and like write up an opinion on like the private tree issue that you see. And it's still something that could be submitted to planning as an opinion, you know, as an advice, and they'll take it for what it is. You know, we're a non-professional advisory board, and you are coming at it from a perspective, but like, I think you should write up what your concern is, and you know, planning may be able to glean something from that, or you know, they may not. They may say we've addressed this or we can't address this, but I think it's okay to have an opinion about it. To see if it is something they need to review, like because they do overlap with some private plantings, although it is I promise you, sticky wicket. But it doesn't mean you don't have to have an opinion about it. Like if you have an opinion and you think there's a problem with it, let's write it up and send it to planning and see what they say. I think that's okay.
Well, I could do that, but I would want the full commission, the full tree council to be on board with that before we submitted it as something, you know, that is going to purport to come from the tree council. I don't want it to just be my personal opinion.
That I think that for anything we write, that's what's going to happen. Like whatever I'm writing, when I'm going to do an advice piece, I'm not going to just say from the tree council. I'm going to say, this is what the policy committee is proposing to submit, and we're going to send it to our whole committee. And then they're going to say, okay, or okay, but, or not this one. And so I think you including your piece is perfectly appropriate. Now, does it make the cut? Does it get edited? I have no idea. But I think that if it's something you've been thinking about, we should look into it.
Okay. Well, I am trying to not take on any new projects until I graduate because I've got my orals coming up. I've got all kinds of things. And so I'm trying to be really good about, like, I got off the education committee just temporarily for now because I just have too many irons in the fire.
That is fine too. So if you want to
taking that on right now, but
yeah,
I will in the future.
Edit or look at what we're talking about, that's also fine. So if you're not, that's totally fine. And like I said, like if I can figure out how to codify this for us as a group so that when we move forward and Rodney's here and I'm not, then this thing it's whatever, it's okay that it's an interest because we're really just looking at it to try to give advice. I'm not trying to be the policy maker per se, even if we have it, even if we are persuasive and policy has changed, it's not us crafting the policy. We are advising.
Okay. I guess we should find out if Sean wants to be on the policy committee.
He switched to the education committee.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any takers on the new appointees? Does anybody express any interest?
Well, the agenda's got the new arborist, Aaron Hall.
He's on this.
Okay. And Joe Bates.
That's pretty good right there, actually. Joe has a lot of institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of whoever replaces me, I'm trying to find someone that would be policy geared, because I feel like it's the harder thing, actually.
Well, you can stay. You don't have to leave.
I've already been tagged for the next thing, so.
What is the next thing?
It'll be with the 100% Athens Renewable Energy Initiative, working with the Office of Sustainability. We're working on a project that will bring me forward.
Cool.
And they're how I got here, actually. And so that is honestly, that's how I'm here. But I can get a lot done in 10 months. But the punctuation won't be right. And there may not be very many facts, so I'm gonna
Well, I have on last year I updated the county's BMP manual, and I wrote up like this little 3-page essay on the benefits of trees that is now part of the manual. The original manual that Connie wrote had that in there too, but I just updated it because we've got updated values and numbers and all that. Do you want that? Would that go into your document?
Sure.
Have a place?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, just at least for me to reference, just a reference would be good. Reference. And also, do Mary and Jesse have that? Because to have that as documents on our
it would be good for the new planning arborist to have a copy of that. That would be a good direction to direct development toward, whenever possible. Aaron would have some interest in that right now because he's studying for the ISA exam, and he's literally studying the best management practices that inform that document. That is posted on my ACC webpage, but I think it'd be really great to have it on the planning side as well.
Okay.
We did a good job with it.
Thanks. Connie had done such a great job. There was very little to change.
Lee, what is your thesis? What is your
I'm not doing a thesis, so I don't have a paper, but I have oral exams for the Masters of Forest Resource. And so those are April 2nd.
All right.
I've already got March divided out. Every week is a different week. 1 week silviculture week, 1 week is dendrology week, 1 week is bugs, 1 week is tree management that I have to study on top of studying for tests and other things that go on. But yeah, it's like the extra thing on top.
Well, that's a hard push at the end. So
yeah,
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. So I'm just trying not to take on anything else right now because I found myself at my max. I find that I use weekends to just catch up and get my head above water. And then on Monday I start sinking again. And I can't keep this up. Something has to give. So I got rid of a few projects and kind of wiggled things around, and I'm just trying to say no to things, which is not like me, but I'm having to say no to some things.
All right, I'll give you to May. And then June.
Okay. Just let me graduate.
Yeah. One vacation, one deep breath, and then we're back in.
And then before I plunge into the summer, I study. I might have like a week there. I can get everything caught up again. Yeah, I got a lot of things back up.
For me last year, I think unusually for most people, the most stressful thing was not the pandemic, it was the election cycle. And so I was very underwater all last year with the election cycle, and now I'm afraid you guys are going to have me full bore. So maybe more than you can handle. You have my attention now, or you didn't have it all last year. So that's the longest election cycle I have ever worked, and I'm happy that it's over.
3 recounts you had?
I don't even know how many recounts. The runoffs, the hand recount, where I became very acquainted with the landscape management property. Was walking around designing what I wanted to do with the rest of that land. That was 4 10-hour days. And me and my partner ended up standing, but we also had to talk like talk the whole time. It was like, I don't know how opera singers do it. I don't know how they do it. You know, it's like, it's crazy. So that was, and then people were watching and they were unhappy with a lot of, I kept saying like, democracy may die in the dark, but it does not die in a windowless room off of landscaping. We are keeping it alive. And I think we did. So there'll be more free and fair elections, which I'm really happy.
Oh, good. All right, I'll send you just the 3-page benefits of trees essay, but because I still can't, this is just my bad computer skills, but I still can't find that BMP online now. I even tried to cite it the other day again, and all I keep coming up with is the old one. But Rodney said it's on the MyACC webpage. I'll look there specifically.
I can look there.
I do have a resource for you, Mary.
Oh,
that
yeah.
I think you'll really enjoy.
What is it?
It's the webpage by Dr. Wolf, Green Cities, Good Health. It's a bibliography. It is excellent, and that will give you a kind of a little bit of a head start on some of the research.
Cool.
Now, some of that research may be starting to age, but it's still excellent information.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you saw I referenced that the Greenville, South Carolina. I got to go on the bus tour. Athens sent a bunch of people up to Greenville on a bus that with the Heritage Foundation, which is now Athens Historic Athens. They sent a group of us up there to see what Greenville had done in their revitalization. And I was on that bus, and we all got the book. And that stuff is dated, and yet there's still core elements of it that are so true, you know, so it's really helpful, you know, that. So I plan to submit the advocacy letter in some form to the whole committee for the next meeting, say, hey, I have this on the docket, and to seek people's approval, edits, concerns. And for our next meeting, and then I'm going to resubmit our goals for this year, because what I submit to Joe was 2 specific items, but I'm going to submit more our idea of advocacy and advisory from policy. And that's good because it's a really general goal, so people can do it all the time. We can always be doing that. And then for us next time, I hope to have some advisory positions. Then the next month we would submit to the whole group to look at and see how they feel about it. And that's my to-do list for the next month or 2. So you guys, anything? Okay. And I've been emailing Joseph Bates and just asking questions back and forth. So I'll email him to this and tell him that send him writing things I was going to say, and I will mention what you found, Rodney, about that the plantings are not restricted to one off at 35 feet. That it could be, they can be grouped, and so that what we may need, and I may encourage Joe to see if he would be interested in writing an opinion to encourage that language of groupings as opposed to individual plantings.
Now, along the right-of-way grouping is kind of I mean, you can only group so much, but you can squeeze some trees together, you know.
Right. Yeah. And I wonder if about and maybe, you know, if there any option to stagger plant to help with understory possibilities, or we know right now it seems like we plant in a row and we don't stagger in any capacity. I'm sure that's super efficient to plant in a row, but there may be more advantage to stagger planting for different understory options.
That would be, I don't know if there's any requirement to plant in a row at all. I think it's just the limiting factor is that a lot of the medians are so narrow, you don't really have much of a choice. It might be worthwhile for planning to weigh in about, you know, a long-term vision about that, so that there's consistency around the county, or if there's certain zones or districts where, you know, it might be well to fall under an overarching plan.
Okay.
I think there's a lot to be gained by staggering trees out. For one, if you lose a tree, it doesn't leave as much of a gap. It doesn't look like as bad of a gap.
Mhm. All right, more things for planning to consider. That's it for me, you guys.
Okay.
All right, see y'all in March.
See you then. All right. Thanks, Mary.
found a new story,
Okay, we're still.
12 episode.
How's it going, Edith?
Hey, Sean.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Terrible day to be out, huh?
Yeah, it is kind of crummy. It sure is.
I got a lot done this week looking at grants because it rained and it was a good excuse not to do anything else.
Oh, cool.
So I think today we're going to have, we're waiting for Holly to join us. You know, Lee's not going to be on the committee now. She felt like she was on too many committees and she's trying to graduate.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna log out for a second because my camera won't work for some reason. So I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
There you are.
Me.
Yeah. It actually looks like we have two. There we go. Okay. So we're waiting for Holly to join us. Seth had emailed that he's probably going to be out in the field. And I think Stacy also works.
Okay.
There's Holly.
How's it going, Holly?
There she is. Hey.
Hey.
How are you
How's it
doing?
going?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Holly, I wanted to ask you, do you have a time constraint with transportation or anything?
No.
No. Okay.
Oh, what do you mean?
Oh,
You're talking about for the big meetings.
No, oh, well, I don't know, catching the bus or,
I do so I usually, don't the regular general meetings go till 5:30?
yes.
Yeah, so I have to wait almost an hour if I don't get my 5:30 bus, and
Okay.
so I usually have to leave 10 minutes early just so I can get home, by 6. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I do on the big group meetings.
Okay. Okay. Well, today it's going to be just the three of us. Seth is out in the field and Stacy had a work conflict. So I guess the first thing we could talk about would be the spring project. And Lee had contacted Stacy Smith, who's with Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful. And I had also emailed her. She's in touch with all the green school coordinators. And she didn't really know of anything going on, but was going to ask them, but wanted to ask us what we wanted to do. So we were kind of, I guess, back and forth about that. She did really like your idea, Holly, about the webinars, which is, it seems at this point maybe pushing to do a spring project is just a little much. Maybe we should just focus on a fall project. But that's not saying we shouldn't do anything. Maybe it would be something such as providing the green school coordinators with, our virtual resources as we get them. And just letting them know that, we're available for consultation or perhaps even for help with a project. I don't know. Did y'all have any ideas about that or thoughts about that?
I didn't fully understand what the green schools, I don't really know what that is. But I wonder if we have contacts as part of this green schools, if we could pitch a webinar their way about some ideas for things that they could do, or I don't know. It's an idea of like, maybe we don't go to the green school per se, but we talk to the educators that we would be working with if we were to go into a classroom and read a tree book or do an activity outside. If we, I don't know. I don't know what that is, so maybe I shouldn't say that.
No, I think that's a good idea, and I think those are some of the things they've been looking for. It's just that the pandemic has just thrown a wrench into all of that. I looked at what their criteria were for being designated as a green school, and it's just pages and pages of requirements. But a lot of it does focus on trees and tree education and recycling and things like that. So I think we could be helpful that way. And they do, not all the schools in Clarke County have a green school coordinator, but I'd say 2/3 perhaps do. So we could just reach out to them and let them know that we're a resource and see what's going on.
What is the grade levels?
It was all the schools. It was K through 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good, and Seth is connected to this. There's a lot of great Project Learning Tree activities that are tree related that could be, and maybe the teachers are already connected to those. I don't know. I'm not as connected with the school system. I don't have children, but I know that there is I was thinking of high school students more so, but there is an there's a Project Learning Tree iTree training. And my colleague Jason Gordon and I have been trying to talk about like how we could deliver that it would be more high school student appropriate, but it seems like if some of the green school instructors aren't familiar with these Project Learning Tree activities, I don't know, maybe we would need like a Project Learning Tree coordinator to talk about that, but I'm just trying to think about sort of a train the trainer
Yeah.
type event that we could do virtually.
Yeah. I think keep going with that idea. We have compiled a list of resources too for that some of the other organizations have done, like Arbor Day and Trees Atlanta. Also, Captain Planet had some really neat ones for the little ones, the wee people. So I think if we could compile some things and maybe do a brief synopsis of what it's about, that might be good. Most of them were fairly easy to access, but with some of them you had to go through a lot of submenus, and that's why I thought it would be good to have a synopsis. If a person didn't have much time to sort all that out.
Yeah, my colleague across the hall is like the state project learning tree coordinator, and but it's not that's more his area of expertise than mine. And oftentimes you have to buy the manual. I guess that's how they make some of their money. But you buy like a manual, you can do a training. Some of them are downloadable, which I think the iTree one is freely downloadable. But I should probably talk to him more. And
okay,
because we may not be able to just. I don't know if they're freely shareable, the Project Learning Tree activities. Do you know, Sean, have you ever done anything with Project Learning Tree?
I have.
You guys know what that is, right?
Well, I don't personally. I would imagine somebody on staff does.
It's like youth environmental education, and they're really specific activities, and they lay out, like, okay, for example, Seth has the book of K through 12, 100 different activities listed, and maybe one of them in there is tree ID. And so it'll go through, it'll talk about the goal of the activity, the objective. It'll go through specific details of the materials that you need to carry out that activity, all the steps in carrying out that activity, and then some follow-up questions with the kids. It basically runs you through an entire like pre-made activity, and they're all peer reviewed, and just it's been really, really successful. And so a lot of educators will go and they'll be trained to be a Project Learning Tree educator, or they can bring it into the classroom, or it can be something that they just do Project Learning Tree training. So it's like environmental ed.
Yeah. I think if we could collect resources like that, and Holly, maybe you could follow up on just finding out more about the access to it.
Okay.
And you say Seth would be a good source, or at least he would be the first person to ask about.
I don't know if he's done. It's called PLT, or Project Learning Tree. So I don't know if he's done PLT training. But I know that he has a handbook with a lot of activities. We did the Winterville Elementary Project Learning Tree activities with them because he had that book. And so we based all of our activities with the second and third graders off of some of those activities lined out in that book that he had, which was really thick. I mean, it had like 100 different activities, and there were like 10 or 15 of them that were tree focused.
Yeah.
They were good.
Does the botanical garden do any of those?
Maybe. I don't know.
Do they have a specific person that focuses just on trees, or?
I don't know that, but I know that they have like a youth education person.
Yeah. Okay. That might be another place to reach out too. So I know they do, well, they're probably not doing them now. They used to do this the year before last. Field trips from all the different schools would go there and participate in different activities.
Has anyone asked the green schools how, like, what kind of support or information they would need? For example, I'm just spitballing here, but if we had, for example, let's say we had an hour session that we promoted, a virtual session. And maybe the first 20 minutes was Sean talking about tree climbing. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. And it, something educators could learn about, that they could say, hey, students, did you know that you can become an arborist? Or, just a presentation of a subject matter. And then after that, we could have like a little discussion session with some of the educators about, how could the Community Tree Council help you out, to teach children about trees? Like, what kind of resources do you need? What sort of other support do you need? And just that could, sometimes you're sort of like feeling around in the dark, trying to figure out what the community needs unless you ask them. Yeah. And so we could ask some key stakeholders like these green schools and maybe some other, I'm still new to the Community Tree Council. I don't know who your audience is, but I'm assuming the Athens community or Clarke County, but inviting the community to provide input on, how we could help them with education. Like, what are they looking for? Do they want a tree ID webinar? Do they want how to prune their tree webinar? Do they want us to come into the schools and read books to the children? Like, how have you guys done that?
Sean, you could better address that since I'm relatively new, I've only been on the Tree Council for a year. Didn't there used to be a person that went into the classrooms?
So I think that was way back when, even like Maureen O'Brien, I think was involved in that, and that was like a decade ago, I think. So, and Holly, we're just, as of like 2020, we've reactivated this committee, so it's been pretty quiet, for a while. So I think we're, I know at one point, we've definitely done in person, but I think we're sort of blazing the trail almost again, like sort of reestablishing ourselves. So I think these are all great ideas, and I like them, especially the notion of the framework, like the project learning tree, and then like with our outreach, which we do within New Urban Forestry. We are involved in like Timothy Road Elementary School has a nature trail, that we do everything from tree ID to I did a tree climbing competition. Demonstrations, just general urban forest topics, So I think, what we've done could definitely complement the project learning tree for sure.
I think it's a good idea to survey them rather than assume that they want, say, like an outdoor classroom. They may, because of security reasons, not want that.
Something you were just saying, Sean, I know we're talking about doing some sort of spring program, and I know it's like COVID world, so we keep coming back to these virtual opportunities, but what if we had a webinar that was, for example, a 20 or even 30-minute presentation? Let's say, for example, you did it, Sean, and you talk about how to create an outdoor nature trail at your school. And you don't have to talk about all the administrative red tape hurdles that someone would have to go through, but if you talked about, I guess I'm thinking more specifically about the opportunities that could come around creating, an outdoor classroom or an outdoor nature trail. That there could be you could do tree ID, you could have a local tree care company come out and do a climbing demonstration. Or you could just base it all off of what New Urban Forestry has done, and maybe there's some images of some of these events that you have done with some of the schools. And then after, I'm not describing this very well, but I really liked what you just said, Sean, and that could be shared with schools that maybe don't have that nature trail and would like to have it and just need some ideas or some justification to their administrators about the value of it. And And then after the presentation, we could open it up to have a discussion, and one of us could be taking notes, and we could ask them, you know, what do you need, and how could the Community Tree Council support your needs? I mean, there's even ways in Zoom. I don't know if we did a webinar, if we could do it on Zoom, that you can poll the participants where they just click on an answer on the screen. And so if they don't speak out, like a lot of people don't, then we could get them to participate some other way and sort of collect information. Like, what would you like more of? A webinar, a pamphlet, a tree fair, a tree walk? And we get information that way. And so it's not only education for the public or schools or green school coordinators, it is also a way for us to get information about how to do future educational programs.
Right. I think it's a great idea. And I should add that, you know, like our goal or in that nature trail, by the way, is we really wanted to, you know, do these little kiosks, you know, throughout this nature trail on Tennessee, and have little like QR codes or something that you could scan on and somehow coordinate or, you know, once again complement like their study, or, you know, like currently, you know, what they're working on in school, and, you know, it was like Plan ID, the habitat, to you know, like food making process in trees, and, you know, different whatnot, you know, so that was our goal, you know, like that hasn't happened yet, but I think, you know, that would be an interesting aspect as well.
Sean, so you were involved in the development of that.
So we didn't create the trail, you know, like we it was already in place, but I've led a number of walks, and the kiosks and the QR codes they haven't gotten off the ground yet, but I've been involved, you know.
Were there many hurdles in just getting the project kind of underway, or?
In person, they loved it. You know, like it was like, one, like it's a great opportunity for kids. Then once again, you know, like virtually tricky, and I would imagine it's different, you know, but like as far as the school administrators, you know, like they loved it, you know, just like we had to ask and,
yeah,
you know, let them know when we'd be there. And I would imagine now, as far as the teachers go, you know, like I'm sure they would love a break, or at least someone else taking the reins too, if the opportunity, you know, arose.
Yeah. I did check with Stacy Smith about our access to the school campuses, because I know with the master gardeners, they had to be fingerprinted and have background checks, and she said that would not be necessary as long as we were going, say, on weekends or weekdays, or if we were in the presence of a teacher with the students. But if we were alone with students, of course, we would have to go through the whole thing, like we were, you know, making sure we didn't have any criminals that we were harboring. And you know, and I can understand the reasoning for that. So it sounds like we should probably just start off by doing a survey. You know, I can write a letter to the green school coordinators, excuse me, and ask them if they have any current projects, what they might want to have help with. Excuse me. And just let them know that we're available as a resource. They may not know that. And I can also let them know about some of the virtual resources that maybe we've not created, but ones that we've come upon that might be appropriate for their students. but I'd love it if we could do our own, create our own, webinars or educational shorts, for the appropriate grade levels.
That'd be great.
Yeah, or even just the general public too.
Yeah.
It's just nice to know what people want to know, you know.
We talked about in promotions about the different social media outlets, and Mary's going to look into nextdoor.com, because this is, neighborhoods and people that have yards and have trees and don't know how to plant the trees or what tree they should plant. And so that was a potential means to educate the public too, since it seems like we're doing everything virtually now. Okay, well, that's a start. And then we're going to talk about the fall event. I don't know, with all this bad weather, Holly, had you gotten a chance to go out and take a look at the?
No, but I haven't. But I once the weather is nicer and I'm, because I would need to go on a weekend, and I haven't had that opportunity yet.
Oh.
But what I would like ideally is that it be in a location where people can park.
Mm-hmm.
And it not be problematic, because there's a lot of places along the trail or the greenway where there isn't really good parking.
Yeah,
and
there
so
need to be bathrooms too.
Sorry, say that again.
There need to be bathrooms also.
Yeah, and that'll be a big challenge.
Yeah.
And Sandy Creek Nature Center is maybe the best space for that, just because there's parking there and there are bathrooms there. Even on the weekends, they open up, or at least they did. I don't know if that's still the case now. They would have the bathrooms open in the back of the building
Uh-huh.
for the public. And so, and it's a great area there that sort of heads down into the river. And so you get sort of the diversity of tree species as you're heading from slightly upland down into kind of the more, it's not really river, creek bottom area. And so on the greenway there, that could be a good place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about parking, and I think that's probably going to be a limiting factor. Unless you guys can think of other places along the trail where there's parking opportunities that aren't just going to be problematic for people showing up.
I think Sandy Creek is a great opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what their parking capacity is. I haven't been out there in a long time.
If we started at and you're speaking of like the nature center,
yeah,
up there, a bunch. If it took place on the weekend, they have around the center, of course, and then across the way at that old house, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've just seen people like parking up the road, if it's really busy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that would be an issue, fortunately.
Yeah, so that I'm roughly thinking about that being a good starting point. And it's, it would require people to either bike to get there or to drive to get there, as opposed to them, if it's people downtown, walking to the start of the trail. But also, we could cover more ground if it were like a biking tour, but I don't know if that's something that we would want to do. And it would restrict some people, who don't bike. But it's just we would cover a lot more ground. We could probably see more interesting species if we could move more.
It's probably about a mile in which we'd probably be able to see. I mean, would that be long enough, or?
I think that because so a mile in would be 2 miles total. That could even be a lot for some people.
Yeah.
So I would say I probably wouldn't go more than a mile in, and to see what's in there. So I can walk that out and see what kind of species I see, which is always fun with winter ID.
Yeah.
And as far as like if we started at the nature center, up to you guys, are you familiar with the old nature center? That I don't even know if they use it anymore, but I would say it's probably maybe an eighth of a mile from the current nature center. And I think between the parking area and the old nature center, it offers a good a broad range of tree species, really, and it really wouldn't require riding by.
Is that on the Greenway?
It is, yeah, on the upper end, like
the old nature center.
The Sandy Creek Nature Center.
But is the old one different than the one that they have now?
Yeah, I mean I don't know that it's in use anymore, really.
Is it overlook the pond?
Correct. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. It's if you're in the parking lot, you head out on the Greenway and you pass that on the left.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, you wouldn't need to ride bike there. And I would say even a mile out, that exceeds the off Greenway trails. But I think that it would include everybody. It really wouldn't exclude people who couldn't ride bike.
I'm trying to keep in mind too that even in the fall, people may need to socially distance, or how would that work with a tour?
It's a lot easier outside than having an indoor event. Just having people space out and wear a mask if we're still in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, have you guys used some type of PA system? I think that would really help as well. If the leader was able to communicate to the people in the back. I know in the talks or in the tours, I guess, or the nature walks, you get stretched way out, and then you'd have to scream at the people in the back. So I think that would be
I think the older people would really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had that for our tree ID. The last one we did in Winterville, I found from the guy who runs the trial gardens on campus, he had Dr. Armitage's, I don't know if you guys know him,
yeah.
His like PA, his little portable PA that he had, we used to wear. It had a headset with a mic on it, and it had a little speaker on that you wear on your waist. And I think as long as he was facing them, the group, the participants, they could hear him better, as far as I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just getting a hold of that. I could probably borrow that again.
Cool.
Are we thinking about just having one guide, like one group that goes out, or will we have limited enrollment? I mean, I guess at some point we need to. I mean, I don't know that we would be flooded with participants, but do we need to limit how many people would register for this? What did y'all do in Winterville?
We didn't limit it, and we didn't really know how many people would show up. But I think that second event we had 70 people, and that was sort of exceeding the limits of people being able to hear Dr. Merkel. But I think splitting, if we had that many people, we may want to split up. And I'm happy to be one of the speakers, just because that's part of what I teach here anyway. But for example, especially if we needed an additional speaker, like if we wanted to have, a big name speaker as a tree ID lead, and we needed a second person, I would be happy to be that second person.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm thinking it might be a good idea to have two times that people register for. would morning be better or afternoon?
Are we talking about October? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I did check the game schedule, UGA game schedule, and other than the Georgia-Florida game, which is October 30th, I did not see that the others were going to be scheduled. I know Lee had mentioned, well, if it's a night game, it'd be okay, but then sometimes we don't know until shortly before that it's, what time it will be exactly. So is October 30th a good date?
I'm not sure because it's right before Halloween. But you said I mean, the other thing about a game is, I guess it's possible that some people who'd want to go to a game or watch a game may not want to come to this, but we probably wouldn't be as affected by game traffic because I guess it depends which way people got to, like I would get on the bypass to get to Sandy Creek Nature Center. And so if traffic is the issue with the game, then that may not be as much of an issue for people. Maybe I'm wrong. I've always just taken the bypass over to Sandy Creek Nature Center.
I think a lot of people during games just, town people just decide not to go into town or near town. So if I lived on East Side, I probably would not register for an event on the other side of town. Just because.
So is October 30th the day that there isn't a game here?
There's not.
I think that would be best to plan it on a non-home game day for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that'd be a Saturday, and I guess Halloween would be
that evening, maybe.
Probably that evening. So I'm thinking, well, I know some of the some organizations do trunk or treat or like a Halloween festival. We'd be competing with that.
Maybe not if it was earlier in the day. Like, let's say if it were at 10 or 11.
Yeah. How long do the tours need to be?
Well, it depends on how long a distance you go. And it depends how much you stop as well. So, for example, my dendro lab, we do about 12 to 14 plants a week, and it takes us 2 hours.
Uh-huh. Is it possible that a tour could be, I'm just thinking of how long the participants might hold out, like 1 hour?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, Ollie, how are you?
Hey, who is that?
John Ashley.
Oh, hey. Your beard's smaller.
That's what my wife wanted for her birthday. So she good free, no money down birthday present made her happy. So
I bet he would probably be one of the guys on the walk, by the way, if you asked. I should probably ask first.
All right. Here's Sean. He's out there working on the
1 second.
I think so. If we did like before, like leading up to lunch or just right after lunch, probably late morning, I would think would be good.
It can still be pretty hot in October too, and that's why I'm liking the idea of morning.
Yeah, or it could be cold and rainy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the 30th from like 10 to 12:30. You know.
Yeah. So are you? So maybe the tour. If we had 2 tours, would it work if we had one at 10 and one at 11, or one at 10 or one at 11:15, or?
Or we could just have people show up at the same time and we could just split them up into groups.
I like that idea.
Because it might be tricky, like advertising, if we have 2 different times.
Yeah. So have it start at 10 then.
I think fewer people would show up if we start earlier than that.
Yeah. Do we want to go later? Do we want to go to 10:30?
I think 10 o'clock is a good time.
I think so too. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay.
I think it'll start to, people's stomachs will start to eat themselves if we go too far past lunch. And we could always have some snacks if it's not COVID world still.
I went to a really neat event last March. It was, well, just as COVID was starting, but before we all had to stay at home. It was done by Dr. Armitage and Dr. Durer.
Oh yeah, those two professors of mine.
It's called Rude Awakenings, and it was out in Lexington. But they even had food vendors, and they had people from Avid Bookshop, and I think the Hydrangea Society was there, and it was really well done. So I don't know if we want to be that elaborate and maybe have some tables set up at the end. Certainly we'd want to give out water.
Yeah, the first year we did the tree tour, we started at the mayor's house, and we had beer, we had wine, we had all sorts of treats.
Wow.
We had some giveaways. We had a whole table full of information set out, and the whole idea initially with this, actually, maybe I could just mention this, with this tree walk, is we wanted to replicate something that happens in, I believe it's Marietta, in a neighborhood. They do something called a sip and stroll, where they drink wine and they go and they learn about trees. But we realized we couldn't do that in a public space, especially in Winterville. And
you'd be arrested.
Yeah, you can do it in a private neighborhood, but just not in a public area. But anyway, and then the next year we also had treats like food out, to snacks and beverages. And we also had another giveaway. And then the third year we did kind of the same thing. We had fewer snacks, but we also had a giveaway, like a raffle, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I think are we going to charge for this event?
I would hope not. We'd have to look at our expenses. Certainly we could have a table. I know
a donate option.
I looked at the permits too for that, and even though Athens-Clarke County owns it, it's administered by the Leisure Department. So we'd have to do the permit from them. That's why I was trying to nail down the date, so we can get our foot in the door. We need to let them know how many participants, if we need a tent or chairs. Yeah, I guess we could add on about the tent or chairs, but, I wonder how many participants we would want to limit it to.
Yeah, it depends on how well it's advertised, and if it's not competing with other events. But yeah, I think we could always find more speakers. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I guess we could do a rough estimate, say 100, and if we don't have 100, that's fine. It'd be better than saying 30 and then have 100 people show up. I think we'd have some problems there maybe, but I was thinking maybe we should go ahead and try to get the permit, get the permission to do that. I don't know if their organizations now use the Greenway for say fundraising, like, they have the walks there for different, like the lupus organization and breast cancer awareness. And that's why I thought we should go ahead and try to nail down the date.
I think that's a great idea, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to at least inquire with the nature center. Is the nature center open, by the way? Like, the indoor portion, the activities and all that? Like,
yeah, I don't even know if those are open now.
and I'm in respect to COVID.
I'll look at that. That is a good thing to do.
But that would be, like they used to, traditionally they have a rock and gem show, and which usually takes place in the fall. So it would be good to at least inquire with them to see if
Yeah.
that date's even open.
Yeah. See what their calendar is.
Yeah.
Because it would be great, to start the walk there. People could use the bathroom before we embark. They've got water fountains, of course, and you can take that trail and do a big loop. You can end up there, and you could start on the greenway, go down by the clay pit pond or whatever, come back around in that lowland area, and then move back. But if there was some other event, I think it would probably be a no-go on a given day. I don't think you'd want to double them up.
Yeah.
Well, it's so tricky too, because with COVID, a lot of these places, like for example, if they aren't open right now, they may not know in the fall, and they may push events back. But if we let them know this is what we're thinking about, then I think it would just be helpful to them.
I know even the bathrooms have been closed, like at Pittard Park, just because of COVID. So even if a venue's closed, many times they'll leave the bathroom open, but now those have not even been accessible. And so I think that'd be an issue with if we had 70 or 100 people. Holly, did you? I went on the Winterville tour and it was wonderful. But I can't remember. Were there portalettes, or did people just go to the library, or?
We didn't have porta potties, and porta potties are pretty pricey to rent.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that, but I think Pittard Park was open because I believe it was a Saturday, or I think it was a Saturday. And so I think people just went to Pittard Park and used the toilets there.
Yeah.
So I brought up the thing about if you guys wanted to charge something, because after our last tour, we had multiple people come up to us and say, "Why are you guys not charging anything? You could like raise money from this. Like we would totally pay you to do this." And it could be a good fundraiser, like even if it's only like $2 or $3.
Yeah.
It's just something to think about. And not only could you cover expenses, but you could put it in the community tree council budget,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
That's a great idea, like a suggested amount.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll bring that up. And I know we have a PayPal account now, so it would be easy to do. Is there a minimum amount that you can charge on PayPal? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll ask Pam. And I think we'd call it, a donation. I think we have to call it that for, IRS or tax purposes.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Would we charge by family? Like, would there be a family amount, or would it be per individual?
I was kind of thinking per individual, and maybe it would be $1 for kids, $2 or $3 for adults. It's just something to think about. So PayPal minimum transfer amount is $1.
$1. Okay. Okay. We could say something like maybe children under 6 for free, though. Yeah, I'm thinking that both parents would come. I wonder, do you think people would pay $5?
I don't, maybe. I mean, $5 isn't a lot for a lot of people, but it can be a lot for some people, like students.
Yeah.
After the last tree tour, we couldn't really raise money though. Anyway, that's a long story, but I think it's possible. Yeah, I think it's possible people would pay $5. it's still a very low cost event. But then you have to handle like taking money, and there could always be like a registration, you know, people register, but then you have to set up a registration page.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would pay $5 to go on a tree ID tour
But
if I really wanted to learn.
I do like the idea of a person making a financial commitment to it, because I think it would, that way we would have fewer no-shows.
Good point.
You know, a lot of times people, you know, intend to do something, they register and then they forget about it, or they decide, well, I'd rather sleep late, or, you know, it takes the commitment one step further. And I think we could explore other payment options, but I know that we do have the PayPal, and, you know, when we advertise, say, on social media, there could just be a link to that, to our PayPal account. With registration, did you do anything more than just their name, or?
We didn't do any kind of registration for the tree tour because nobody wanted to take it on.
Oh.
But if we if it were a payment thing, we would have set up some sort of registration. But we couldn't accept money for various reasons.
Okay. I guess it would have to be online. And the other thing that comes to mind with that is a rain date. I mean, if we, you know, hurricane season runs through until what, the end of November? You know, if we had just this huge flood and needed to cancel, would we offer a rain date, or how would we give people their money back? Or if it's a donation, that we really don't have to give it back. They might expect something in return. Maybe we could send them an Athens Tree Council sticker.
Yeah, like yeah. What if they give something, you know, a small token, you know, for? I think that's a good idea. That, you know, no matter what, you know, like for this cost, you get something, you know, and whether you show up or not, you know, like hopefully whatever gift or perk that would be, you know, would be of no or little cost to us.
Yeah.
And, you know, this, not to add further complications, you know, like we did those sapling giveaways at the botanical gardens a while back. And honestly, I think it was the Green Life Festival. That was over a year ago, you know, and those were distributed by the Georgia Forestry Commission. I don't know how often you can get those, but we thought at least it's that time of year, you know, to be planting them. But maybe that's too complicated. So.
Yeah.
So for our, sorry.
Sure.
I was gonna say, for our tree tour, we did basically rain or shine, and fortunately we had good weather. But really, the big cancellation is if it was a deluge or if there was thunder and lightning. But we were open to having it if it was sprinkling. It would have limited people who showed up, though, no doubt.
Yeah.
I find it challenging for like rain dates, because people's schedules are all over the place and they can commit to like the one day, but then the following weekend they may not be able to commit to it. And
Yeah.
I think for me, I think it's just like it either happens or it doesn't, and people get their money back. I don't know, but we could, like you said, we could come up with some alternative to refunding.
Whether you attend or not, you know, it's a good cause, and, you know, like in a lot of cases, hopefully it wouldn't be a big economic hit to drop $5 and not get something for it, if it fell through. But, hopefully like the audience that we're going for, or, at least the people that usually attend these events, probably are accustomed to, sprinkle and rain and stuff, or walks in the woods, not always going to be a sunny day.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of using the same criteria you would use if, your child was in a soccer game. You continue unless it starts thundering or lightning. And I agree with you too, Holly. I think the rain date would just be too complicated. And I think probably at a subsequent meeting, we can probably talk about, whether we want vendors there or other groups. Then it makes it even more complicated if there is a weather event to cancel. But, that's something maybe we could look at. Ones that are related. You had mentioned at the last meeting, maybe well, I don't know if you mentioned the Audubon Society specifically, but
that may have been someone else. I don't think I talked about them, but we did talk about some other, like trying to bring some partner organizations in.
Yeah, maybe the stormwater department or the recycling department.
Yeah, I think Stacy was mentioning something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lee had said that Winterville Tree Council would partner with us on this.
Oh, good.
So anyway, I was really glad to hear that. It helps to have people that experience with this event planning. Okay, I think we've covered, for the permit, I was trying to just nail down the specifics.
Yeah, what else do you need?
I think that's pretty much it. It was like who we are, why we're doing this, where, when, how, why. I guess I need to run this probably by Joe and Rodney or the executive committee before we do the permit. So I'll do that. I'm kind of hesitant to wait until the next general meeting, really. Although
you can,
being a past president, don't we have to have a motion on this from them?
You can put it forth or in front of the executive committee, when there are time sensitive issues like that. I don't think that'd be a problem.
Okay. Okay, I'll follow up on that. Did we have anything else we needed that had come to mind on this that we needed to cover today?
For the fall event?
For the fall event.
I don't.
Anyway, I think those are really, really good ideas and considerations. The other thing we were going to look at today was the virtual scavenger hunt. And I had tried to share my screen a document earlier, and I ended up not being able to get my audio back. So I was hesitant to do that, but I sent y'all an email with a link to the UGA Arboretum, which maybe you've been both involved with, but they have virtual tours that I thought were really neat.
We teach on some of those plants, but I've seen the virtual tour. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that would work if we tried to do a virtual scavenger hunt that way?
I've never done a scavenger hunt, so I don't know. I'm not a good resource on that.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like a game. Adults play it, but it's more geared toward little kids, and you try to find one thing, and then that leads you to another. So I don't know if that could be adapted to something virtual that we maybe want to do as an education mini.
Yeah. Did you say you? Oh, I see where you sent this. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was trying to find your email.
Yeah. I know it is. It's confusing because I use my middle name. So on that.
Guys, I hate to, I have to take off. I have to run to a meeting. And it looks like, well, it's about 4:00.
Okay.
And can we table this?
But yeah.
Are you sure? I think we have a lot to go on, with the fall event, and I don't know if I'd be glad to reach out to Sandy Creek to see if we can at least maybe get a placeholder, prior to an official, permit. But I'd be glad to reach out to them.
Okay. Okay. It is. I didn't realize it was this late. And I'll follow up with the green school coordinators.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, and I can ask Chris Irwin, who's across the hall, about Project Learning Tree activity access if we end up wanting to do something about that.
Okay.
Awesome.
And also I'll do a sort of, what is it called, reconnaissance, or I don't know if that's the right word. I'm going to go out and suss out the situation on the trail. Hopefully there'll be good weather this weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you both.
Okay.
Bye.
And one more thing, Edith, do you want to reach out to Rodney, Joe, and who else is on the executive committee?
Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, like what that would look like, to see if we could get a permit, or like what those steps would look like, or at least if it's viable before the next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is, but
I'll do that. Rodney said you need to, provide us more facts, with more information first before we put it to the general committee for a motion. So, but I'll go ahead and email them the permit too. And I can't remember if there was a cost associated, but anyway, we'll get that sorted out and I'll follow up on it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.